on a disk, floating through space, with a tiny sun.
Hey, I'm FTFE and welcome back to the channel that does to stupidity what James Randi did to Uri Geller's reputation. It is Monday night, so we're back for a Monday night debates, and tonight we've got a really fun one because I'm not debating a dumbass flat earther that's just going to shout gravity is a theory over and over. I'm debating someone who's actually a supporter of the channel and a subscriber. You know him in the community as Rampant, of all the claps that he sends me, and we're going to be debating the possibility of supernatural events like psychics and miracles and stuff. A disclaimer, Rampant has asked that he gets the full FTFE treatment, which means that I have to call him a fucking idiot and a retard several times. So please don't get offended if I'm shouting at the guy. He's a really nice guy, but he will be getting the full FTFE treatment. With me as always is my partner in crime, the massive red cap wearing Ash Ketchum wannabe, Team Skeptic. How you doing?
What up? Having a good time. Redid. For those of you that watch my gaming streams at night, you know that we had some fucking problems with my computer, and before I just grabbed it and threw it in the shower and took a bath with it to cleanse it of all its evilness, I reinstalled Windows and took the leap, and I've been working on getting it back to the operational state that it's in right this second, and it looks like I'm doing okay. I've got all my fucking activators set up and shit. I'm ready. I'm good to go. Let's put it like that.
Thanks for joining, team. You're going to be looking after, you're moderating tonight and stuff, so thank you for that. And let's introduce the guy that is the guest for today. We have Rampant. Welcome to the channel. How you doing?
Hello, I'm doing fine, and I hope this is like the full FTFE experience, you know?
Yeah, well, if that's what you want, just say some dumb shit and I'll call you a fucking idiot. You know how this goes.
I'm going to avenge all the dead souls of the Flerfs that have died here. I'm going for that. I'm going to avenge them, you know?
This is going to be the first time I've lost a debate then, is it?
Okay, first I want to say a couple of things.
Yeah.
Okay, first, okay, you are taking the skeptic position, I'm taking the believer position, so I guess the burden of proof is on me, right? Like the entire burden. You know, we agree on that?
Say that again, sorry?
That the entire burden of proof, like I have to prove it on.
Yes, I would say, yeah, you're the one that's claiming something against the consensus, yes, okay. So you would have the burden of proof. Already, you're far ahead of a flat earther because a flat earther would just be starting with, I don't have the burden of proof. So you're already doing better. It's going to be hard to call you a fucking idiot to keep this up.
Okay, so you have the files I give you?
Yes. Which one would you like me to bring up?
Okay. The PowerPoint, there's one PowerPoint there. Can you open it?
Is that the...
I'm going to open it here also so I can...
Oh,
no, it's paranormal, paranormal
yes,
one,
yes.
PPTX. Yes, okay, there it is.
You know what? I don't even think I have PowerPoint on my computer, so I just have to screen capture that one sec. There we go.
Oh, okay.
It's cool.
Can you do that?
Yeah, I can do this.
Okay, yes, okay. Okay, so...
there we go.
Okay, there. So, first I want to give some definitions, okay, because... supernatural or paranormal or preternatural can be confused, you know?
Yeah.
What I mean with supernatural is any event that cannot be explained either by a current scientific theory or a mainstream one, you know, like a mainstream hypothetical, you know, like for example, I won't say that gravitons are supernatural because gravitons are currently being studied by science, you know, like by a formal science. But examples of things like will be like ghosts, for example, miracles, God, telepathy, homeopathy, those sorts of things that don't fit into either the current paradigm or some like future paradigm that is being studied, you know?
Okay.
Just to not confuse you. So I'm not going to put like, hey, I don't know, multiverse are supernatural because no, they're not.
Yeah.
Go down. Yeah. There's yes. Okay.
Get that back. Yeah, there we go.
Yes, that's a little quote from Carl Sagan, from the Demon Haunted World, from the chapter "The Marriage of Skepticism and Wonder." So, actually, Carl Sagan thought he didn't believe in these claims, but he thought that they could potentially be evidence from the supernatural. You see, there are three, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
I'm going to number two. That people under mild sensory deprivation can receive thoughts or image projected at them. Like telepathy, basically. That people can receive it.
okay.
But that's a really technical argument. So I wish to start with another one. I want to start with miracles. So give me a moment. I'm going to give you the number of the PPT so you can put it. It's Give me a second, please.
Okay.
Okay. Go to 31. Number 31.
Page 31.
Yes. Okay. Page 31.
Here we go. Second miracle,
Yes.
miracle of
Yeah. Yeah.
calendar.
Sorry.
Calendar. Why doesn't God cure amputees?
Yes, okay. So this one I picked because I think it's a really well-funded miracle. I actually put two, but I want to focus on this one. So
Okay.
these are the known facts. Okay, I put the sources in another PPT, but I want to explain this one. So this one focused around a guy that was called Miguel Pellicer. He was from Spain and he lived in the 1637. How do you say the number in English? 1607?
1637.
Yes, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
He lived there and he was basically a farmer, okay? He worked in his uncle farm
Okay.
and he fell from that cart and the car wheel passes over his right leg, okay? And he basically broke his entire leg. He was then moved to a hospital in Castellón, which is near Valencia, and then he was moved to a hospital in Valencia, okay?
Okay.
He then went for treatment in Zaragoza, which is near Valencia, and sadly the leg got gangrenoted and they had to cut it, okay?
Right.
Two people cut it. It was Juan de Stanga and Diego Millaruego. And they cut it like 4 fingers below the knee. Then the leg was buried. For the next 2 years, this guy, he made a living in Zaragoza as a, like he didn't have a leg, so he asked people for money, and many people got to know him because he was like a really religious person. Okay.
Yeah.
And he also went for regular checkups with Dr. Stanga, the one who cut his leg. At one point, like 2 years later, he went to see his family that lived in Calanda.
Okay.
And since he couldn't help in the farm, he begged using riding a donkey. Okay,
Right.
go down. This one is the alleged event. According to Messori, who was an Italian journalist who was born in 1941 and actually wrote the book in the 2000s, at some point in the 1640s, Pellicer decided to go to sleep. And since a soldier was there, he had to switch rooms, so he was staying in another room. Her mom later came in that night to check on him, and she saw that there were 2 feet instead of one coming out from the bed. So she thought, "Oh, what's happening? He had only one leg, And she checked further on him, and she saw that he had 2 legs. Okay. And Pellicer, Miguel said he had a dream that he put like some magical oil in the leg, and the leg grew up. Okay. So of course, we know people don't just magically like regrow a limb. Okay. So this news like spread further, and in that same place in Calanda, 2 surgeons and a local youth examined the leg and sent a report to the superiors. Further, and I think this is the only miracle that a notary actually confirmed. He
Okay.
had a royal notary that confirmed. Okay, go down. Finally, to make things a bit more short, basically, like the entire Zaragoza city got like all the people involved. They got the doctors, they got the witnesses, they got the people, the father, the mother, everyone. And he even met the king, he met King Philip IV, and he even kissed the new leg, Also, the buried leg was never found. So now, of course, this is an incredible story. Like this is really happened. So go to the next page, please. So these are the documentations. First, we have the notary certification of the miracle, which is original. We have all the entire minutos proceeding from Zaragoza. They had 4 printed editions, and we have one that's identical to the original text. We have also a registration that he went to the Hospital of Valencia. We have 3 books about this, and we also have the 24 eyewitnesses reports. So I think this is like a really well attested miracle, how do you explain it? Okay, so go down. There's another link. Okay, these are the arguments against. I found this one in Wikipedia. Okay, basically, Brian Dunning, he claims that there is no documentation. Okay, that none of this happened. That the only documentation we have is Pellicer saying that he lost his leg. But that's actually not true, because I have a link that I can show if you ask me that shows that actually the doctors testified according to this. The doctor that saw him for 2 entire years that checked on his leg. Okay,
Right.
so there are 2 explanations to this. Either it happened or it was a hoax. But if it was a hoax that involved like over 24 people and involved like a notary, a lawyer, and all those kind of things. So I think we could discuss this one. What do you think of?
Okay. Yeah. Well, first off, that is far more evidence than any flat earther has ever presented me about anything ever. So any flat earthers that are watching, please pay attention in how to debate. You come with references, with citations, with an actual, something to talk about. That's how you fucking do it. As to regards as to what actually happened, I mean, like I said, there is no official documentation about it happening, but then again, it's from the 1600s, and there isn't much official documentation about anything. But let's look at it scientifically. Humans don't have the genetic makeup to regrow a limb like that. It's simply not in our DNA for that to happen when we lose a limb. Humans are masters of adapting, and that's what we do. If we lose an arm or a leg, we just learn, we live with it and adapt with it. And I don't think there's ever been any reports that I could think of where limbs or anything have regrown. Is it 100% outside of the realm of possibility? I honestly don't know enough about genetic makeup and regeneration to say. Humans can regenerate to an extent. We can heal wounds. We can, our scars cover eventually. We can regrow hair that's lost and stuff, but regrowing a limb, scientifically, I don't think it's something a human could ever do.
Yes, there is also this Missouri guy, the guy who actually recorded this. Go please to number 33. Okay.
Page 53. All right, one sec.
33, yes, 33.
Okay. Oh. Oh, it only goes up to page 30.
Receives the flatters.
There is no page 53.
No, 33.
33.
Yes.
Sorry, I thought you said 53.
Yeah, sorry. I have yes. Okay, no problem.
Okay. 33. There we go.
Yes, there it is. So, according to Vittorio Messori, the same journalist, he actually spoke to Landino Cugola, who was a primary surgeon of the Hospital of Verona. He's a specialist in limb restoration, and he studied the whole recordings, and he said it's compatible with someone getting her limb like reattached. So that's strange, because how could people in those years will know how a replanted leg will look?
Right. So somebody said, one of the surgeons said that what they saw was as though his leg had been reattached.
No. a modern surgeon, like from the 80s, 60s, more or
Right.
less.
Okay. Sure.
He confirmed because the description on the miracle says that the leg originally was from a dark color with the toes like this, okay, and then with the days the limb started to recover the normal color and the toes started to act more normal. So he says that's like the typical stages from limb restoration. So that's
Okay.
like another layer of facts over the evidence, you know.
That could also be explained in another way. Under the assumption that this guy was a fraud and he was trying to just make money off of begging, there is reports of lots of people, binding their legs up and stuff to make it look like they are an amputee. Now, if you have your leg bound in that position for a long, long time, and there's no blood flow and stuff, you can end up, seriously damaging the blood vessels and stuff in your leg. But then if you unbinded it after a while, a lot of the color and stuff would start to come back. So
So you say like he like put his leg like this, you
yeah,
know?
I mean
Like that?
that's
Ah.
again, it's hard to say because there's no pictures to look at, there's no video to study. There is just kind of anecdotal evidence for it, but there is ways that it can be explained. And honestly, people lie. And
Yes, yes.
if he had an injured leg and he needed a way to make money, he wasn't able to work again. Maybe making the injury seem worse so that he could prey on people's pity is something that would have been done. And that also would explain if he was seen around as somebody as an amputee, but then all of a sudden he's got a leg back. That would explain that because the leg was actually never gone. He
Yes.
was just hiding it.
It's possible, yes. I know. I mean, people can lie, and especially religious people that have like a bias in favor of this, yeah, they could
Uh-huh.
lie. I see it like unlikely, but I consider that it's a possibility, and of course, it's more possible than someone like growing an entire leg in like 1 hour. You know,
Yeah.
okay. So you're not convinced.
No, no.
I'm going to
Yeah, I would say that there's not
again.
enough evidence to substantiate even what happened, even exactly what the injury was. It's a lovely story, but if you were to take that as evidence or something, you would be a fucking idiot.
Okay, okay, but it's a cumulative case. You know,
Yeah.
I'm trying to stack things. Okay, so let's move to 23. 23, please.
Page 23. Let me just get that up.
Yes, 23. Okay, I'm going to put like more and more difficult to explain cases as I move along. Okay,
Okay,
so
so another
that was
miracle.
like a low level one. Yes, this one is the miracle of Fatima, of the miracle of the dancing sun, of the miracle of the sun. Okay, this one actually is involved. It was in the 1970s, and it involved around like 30,000 or 40,000 people. Okay, some claim there were like more people, but it were really a lot of people. Okay, so these are the known facts. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, 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 yes. Sorry.
Okay, I think okay. Okay, so it happened in Portugal in 1917 near the town of Fatima, hence
Okay.
the name. This is a story. These are all known facts because they were put in like newspapers and it was a more modern, so to say. It didn't happen in like the medieval ages.
Okay.
So three Catholic kids, they say they saw an angel appear to them, and then they say they saw the Virgin Mary. Okay, and the Virgin Mary at some point during all these like apparitions say that in the 13th of October of that year at exactly 2 a.m. At exactly like 12 a.m. in Fatima, a miracle was going to happen. It wasn't say what sort of miracle, but it say it was going to be something so big that anyone would believe.
So
Of course, this
angels
being
appeared to these people and said there was a miracle going to happen.
yes, no details about what miracle. It was something big is going to happen in this place at that time
Right.
in this day. Okay, so obviously news spread, and since Portugal was like established in 1910, like 7 years before, and it was a secular republic, there was like a lot of the suspicion that it was like a political move to like make Portugal to be like a more religious country. Okay, so
Okay.
go down. Yeah, go down. Go. So this one was the event. So as you can see, that's a photo of the event. There were 30,000 to 40,000 people, based on a secular newspaper that went there that was called the O Seculo. So according to some interviews, there was like a heavy rain. Okay, there was raining. After the rain, the clouds broke and the sun appeared like really opaque. And according to many eyewitness reports, the sun started like to spin, started like showing multicolor lights and then like doing some zigzag movements, you know.
Right.
Some people say they saw nothing, and some people say that they were like all watching and then like, their time.
Oh,
Go on.
sorry. You say the last bit again. You broke up for a second then.
Yeah, okay. That some people say that their clothes, because it was raining, that
Right.
all their clothes like became dry. Okay, like suddenly, magically, it was dry.
Right.
Okay, go down. Go down. Yes. So, I've seen some photos, and it seems to me people look dry. Of course, I don't know much about photography, and the photographies are in black and white, so I cannot say these people are truly dry. But I'm just saying, it to me they look dry after a heavy rain. You know.
Yeah.
Okay, go down. Yes, yeah, it was just a okay. That's an alleged photography of the event. Okay, as you can see, the black spot there is the sun. Now, I haven't been able to confirm if this picture is actually from that event or if it was from a sun eclipse at another time. But either way, you can see the sun. There's nothing like strange in it, you know. Like it's a black spot, you know, nothing special. You go up. So these are the sources. First, we have secular and Catholic newspapers of the day, like the O Seculo, and we have the March accounts that were like hundreds and hundreds of interviews from skeptics, believers, young people, all there, and they were taken by an Italian Catholic priest that conducted interviews between 1943 and 1950. Go on. Okay, these are the arguments in favor of the event. So first, thousands of people see, like there are hundreds of interviews. I've written like over 3 dozens of those, including people, you know, they weren't like expecting this. For example, Afonso Lopez Viera saw it, but he was like 20 miles away from that place, and he didn't recall that this miracle was going to happen, and he still saw it, you know. Also, skeptics, atheists, and people who came from secular newspapers who had like all the bias against this event actually saw it. Also, there's a picture of the sun that I showed you, that it shows it not in midday, but lower. But I'm not going to use that evidence because I don't know if that photography actually is from the event. Also, the argument about people appearing dry, which again I'm not going to use because I cannot tell if they were actually dry. And actually, these are fears that it was a meteorological event. Because if it was a meteorological event, how did the kids knew it was going to happen at that place and that day and at that hour? And if it was like a mass hallucination, why did people from other places saw it? Okay, now go down, go down. Hello?
Hello. Yeah, I went down to arguments against.
Okay, yeah, there it is, there it is. So these are the arguments against. First, no, not everyone saw the event. You know, some people say they didn't saw nothing. Actually, reports of the event are some quite different. Of course, the sun obviously didn't dance in the sky, you know, because we're still alive, you know.
Yeah, we noticed that.
Yes, the photo from the alleged photo actually may be from a sun eclipse of another place. Also, there are dozens of reporters, newspapers, and there is not one single confirmed photo from the event. The meteorological and mass hallucinations that I claim, and there are some conflict with some theological claims. If it was truly by the Virgin Mary, there are some like really odd things going on, and obviously, so those are all the evidence against and in favor. What do you make of that case?
Okay, right. So I think there's a few things to unpack here. There's two things that we need to look at. The initial event where they saw the angels, whatever, that told them something was going to happen, and then the actual event itself. So let's look at the actual event itself to start with, right? What could it have been? Now, so it was really rainy, and then it stopped raining, and there was a break in the clouds, right? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's right.
The clouds broke and the sun appeared opaque, starting to spin multicolors. Well, just after it's rained, there can be a lot of refractive conditions in the sky. That's what causes rainbows and stuff, right? So it's very possible that the break in the clouds coincided with some wind that was changing the density layers of the air that caused refractive conditions that made the sun look like it was doing that. We know that refractive conditions can make strange things happen, like oil rigs appear to bend and stuff. So we know refractive stuff happens, and especially just after raining, that's why you see rainbows and stuff. So I think if anyone did see something like that, it could be explained by those things. Again, there's no actual images of what they saw, so it's very hard to kind of argue, well, that is definitely a refractive thing. But as for all of a sudden their clothes becoming dry, where was this? Where did it happen?
It happened in Fatima, around the. You mean the picture?
Yeah, no,
it's in 25.
Fatima, where's is that close to the equator?
Fatima, let me Google it. It's in Portugal.
Right, so it's in Portugal, so it's going to be pretty warm. Right, so let's just say for a second the clouds did part and allowed some of the heat and sun through. It's perfectly logical to deduce that it was just really hot and the sunlight dried the people's clothes, even in Scotland, when it's actually really hot, I can put stuff out on the line and it'd be dry in a matter of minutes. I don't think that's anything that it's something that can be explained by natural things without necessarily assuming it was something supernatural causing it.
Do you think it's a bit strange that the kids knew when it's going to happen, like the exact place and day and hour?
That is the other thing, what did the people that say they saw the angels that were going to predict it, where did that come from? Honestly, I have to be skeptical about it, and there is the only kind of evidence of that is people saying many years after the event, oh, I saw some angels and they told me this was going to happen. There's no reports of these people once they saw the angels then going and telling people, oh, we saw angels and something's going to happen on this day.
Oh, yes, but you remember that all the people gathered in that place because the kids say it was going to happen something there. So it was a previous report,
Right, so they
so
had
I
told
find that quite difficult. Yes, because they gathered all in that place because the kids told them.
Okay.
It's strange. It can be luck, it can be dumb luck after all. It's a possibility. Okay, so
again,
you're still not convinced.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced. There's a lot seeing angels and stuff. I mean, there's some pretty strong fucking acid, man. You can see whatever you want.
That's true,
I don't think that there is any evidence to suggest that they really saw that. Even the pictures of it, there's no corroborating evidence to say that that's what they were gathered there for.
Yes, I mean they were gathered because they were expecting something great to happen. Now it can be luck, that's I actually look into this event and I can check it's either a miracle or it was luck. The kids were lucky to say that, oh, it's going to happen something, and it happened. Because lots of people say something is going to happen. Eventually, someone is going to like hit the jackpot.
Yeah. Again, I just don't think there's any evidence to suggest that anything supernatural has happened. It's very hard without being there and stuff to examine, and that's why supernatural stuff in general is a hard position to argue for or against, because the evidence by its very nature is going to be circumstantial, right?
Yes, indeed. But I mean, if you are not convinced, we can move to something a bit more
team. Any
more
thoughts?
confirmed,
If Team's still there,
he seems to be gone.
I think he's busy doing something. All right, okay, we can move on to the next thing.
Okay, we can move. Okay, give me a minute. Give me a second. Go to 36. 36.
36. Oops.
Yeah.
One. Okay. Right. What other unsubstantiated rubbish is there?
Yes. Yes. Okay. There it is. Okay. This one is actually a study. It was done in 2008. It was published in a reputable journal. It was the Resuscitation Journal.
Okay.
And it was done by 33 people across 15 medical centers. And they basically try to prove that someone that gets out of his body when he's dying actually gets out of his body. Like if he can record any memory that during his time dead, okay? So they actually had 2,060 cardiac arrest events. From those 1,001, from 140 individuals complete the questionnaires, 9 could be classified as near-death experiences. They say they get out of their body.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 patients actually recorded seeing and hearing actual events related to the period of cardiac arrest. In one case, it was actually recorded that that person was able to hear and see events that happened 3 minutes after he was dead, like with cardiac arrest, which it's an event when the brain ordinarily stops functioning and cortical activity becomes isolated, So his heart stopped, 3 minutes passed, and he was able to hear and see stuff that was happening in that place while he was dead. Okay, go down.
Okay.
So these are basically the recollections. People can see it. They pause the video when it's uploaded. But basically, in recollection number 2, he heard the dial 444 cardiac arrest. He actually saw a nurse that was there, and he was able to feel and see things that was happening in that moment when he was dead. How is that possible? That's an actual conclusion from the study. So, how do you explain that? How he was able to see and hear things when he was 3 minutes dead? No?
So, I've done quite a lot of research into near-death experiences, actually, because they are very interesting.
Okay.
And there's one answer to it all, and that is a compound called DMT. All right? Do you know what DMT is?
Yes, I also received a near-death experience.
Okay, so when you have a near-death experience, or when you are dying, your brain releases DMT, and it gives you a euphoric feeling, a feeling of acceptance, and can cause hallucinations. Now, a lot of people think this is an evolutionary response to make us less scared of being dead. There's a lot of speculation as to why our brain releases DMT, but it can be harvested from certain flowers and stuff as well, and you can turn it into a drug and take it, and you can trip quite hard. And I think that all near-death experiences are just your brain taking in what sensory input is available to, whilst being flooded with a mass of DMT. So let's just say that you've been in a hospital room for quite a long time, you're very aware of your surroundings in the room, and you undergo a cardiac event, right? Your brain's going to release the DMT because it feels like you're about to die, and that's going to make you hallucinate, okay? Now, you're very aware of your surroundings, so it's quite easy for your brain to kind of put you in another position. And if you're sensing a nurse come up to you and take your blood pressure, and then you're sensing someone put something down your throat, it's very easy for your brain to interpret that and kind of see it from another perspective when you're undergoing a massive fucking trip. And I think that's all it is. And that's why you can even corroborate things that happen. Yeah, well, I saw this happening. Well, yeah, that probably did happen. And your brain was experiencing it on some level, but you were also flooded with a massive amount of chemicals that were making you trip balls.
Yes, but I think I've heard that explanation, and I've seen some doctors talk about this. The problem is twofold. First one, DMT causes hallucination, as you say, and they are like really like you're tripping balls. You know, they're not like the near-death experiences that are like the person doesn't like see things. He's like he feels like he's there. He feels like conscious is normal. He doesn't like hallucinate stuff. Like he doesn't start seeing dragons or weird colors. You know, he feels like he's actually in the room. You know, so the type of experience is really different from a DMT trip.
Well, the thing is, most of the time when your brain's getting DMT in positions when you're dying, it's going to be different to if you and I just in the normal day took DMT to experience a trip. A dying brain that's getting limited sensory perceptions, and it maybe also has other chemicals going through it because of what's going on, is going to experience a trip different to just a normal person taking the DMT. But I still think that the hallucinations in general can answer all the things that are going on. Yeah, they felt like they had this out-of-body experience and they could see it from another perspective, but like I said, they've been in that room for a while. They've seen every area of that room. They've seen the nurses. They've experienced their blood pressure being taken. They've experienced being intubated and stuff. So these are experiences that they can picture from an outside perspective. And if you're also tripping, then, I mean, it makes sense that you're going to see stuff like that. I just don't think there's any evidence to suggest that there's actually an out-of-body experience because, I mean, there's nothing. It's fucking stupid to suggest that we can exist outside of our body. It's moronic to suggest that, but all of the experiences... Sorry, go on, yeah.
Don't you find strange that he was dead for 3 minutes and he was still able to see things and hear things? Like 3 minutes, you know?
Well, that's the thing, right? Clinically dead for 3 minutes.
Isolated.
Yeah, so clinically dead for 3 minutes, that means what? They've had no oxygen to their brain for 3 minutes, or there's been no, not necessarily no oxygen to their brain for 3 minutes, but it means that their heart stopped for 3 minutes, right? There's still going to have been oxygen in there, and your brain is still going to be firing off neurons. There's evidence to suggest that even when decapitated, the brain can experience things for minutes after what happens, you know? So there is still going to, every time you get a sensory input, be it visual or auditory, it makes the neurons fire off in your brain. And even if you're technically dead, even if there's no blood pumping through your body, that doesn't immediately stop the neurons and the connections and the pathways that have been created from firing and allowing you to receive sensory inputs.
Okay, but you know, like complex images and complex sounds happen in the cortex, you know, in the neocortex, and that place is usually isoelectric after 3 minutes, and also, assuming a oxygen deprivation state, can you have the enough brain power to make these like highly detailed hallucinatory experiences? You know that. I don't know. I find it weird.
As long as there's electrical activity, I think you can experience pretty much anything. Your brain is basically something that just is pathways for electrical and chemical signals. That's all it is, and that's what you're receiving constantly. And your entire life experience, any perception that you've ever had, has created pathways in your brain, right? And when you're under extreme stress, dying, or your heart stopped or anything, and DMT has been released, those pathways that are regular and normal to be used are going to be firing like crazy. And that's why you will have familiar things happen in these circumstances.
You know, I've heard a lot of doctors say that that's actually actually not possible, like to have that high complex experience under that states. I've seen many doctors claim that, but I think we can leave that part in that, and
Yeah.
since you're not convinced,
I
I
mean,
can prove, I can show
well,
another
I
piece
mean,
of evidence.
I mean, it does. The thing is, though, out of body experiences and stuff don't happen all the time. I died once when I think I was maybe 13 or 14, and I was eating a jawbreaker, massive fucking big sweet, and I was outside playing, and I tripped and I kind of half swallowed it, and it was in my throat, and I thought, oh, I'll just swallow it down, and I couldn't, and it was proper in my throat. So I ran into my house, ran into my back door. I tripped over the door. I was lying on the floor making a rattling sound. My parents came in, started giving me CPR, and it went on for a good 2-3 minutes. And my heart stopped, and I died. And they got it out, and my mum did CPR on me and brought me back. But I didn't experience an out of body experience. I could still kind of feel and hear what was going on, but it was for me it was though I'd fallen asleep a little bit and then came to properly when they did CPR and I came back. But now
Okay,
I
agree.
just think
It's not the best evidence.
all out of body experiences, I think, can be explained by releases of chemicals that are a natural thing, especially DMT.
Okay.
Team, have you got any
I
thoughts?
think that's a valid explanation, you know.
Uh,
Some actual doctors believe in it.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Let's let the team have a see what his
there's
things are.
so being clinically dead and being dead are two different things. You cannot come back from being dead. That's the bottom line. If you did come back from being dead, then you weren't dead to begin with, technically. Now, being clinically dead is something different. Being clinically dead is something that somebody actually diagnoses you with. So they can misdiagnose you and say that you're clinically dead when you're actually still alive. There's a lot of factors that go into this, like temperature of the body, temperature of the surrounding environment, the metabolism rate
Yes.
of the body
It,
after it's been considered clinically dead. So, like a lot of these things, for instance, uh, let's say you walk into a room and you don't explicitly look at the light bulb, right? Let's say you have just a
mhm.
colored bulb in the corner. The whole room is illuminated, but you have just a colored bulb in the corner, and you walk in, you don't necessarily recognize that you look at the light, but you do take in the information from the light. Your brain, while you're not consciously aware that your brain is processing those signals, your brain is still processing those signals. That's part of how we live. We're not necessarily aware of every single bit of data that we process. So even in a moment of near death is what I would rather call it than an experience where you died and came back. Even during an experience of near death, it does not mean that your brain stops working as far as data collection. It doesn't mean that your brain stops taking in information. You see a lot of these experiences happen where the person's eyes are open. I mean, they don't close their eyes. So for them to come back
Yes,
later and
that's
say,
true.
"Yeah, well, I'm able to give you some information that was unique to that experience or unique to a certain portion of time where I was clinically dead." But if you're still not dead, there's nothing to say that your brain's not going to take in that information and store that information without you being consciously aware that your brain
Yes.
actually took in that information and stored it. So
It's
there, the go ahead. I'm
also
sorry.
true that the name. It's also true that despite the name near-death experiences, they can happen in other non-near-death experiences. You know, like taking ketamine or
Yeah.
these machines that pilots have that make you like spin. You know, or some people like think
Uh-huh.
that they are going to die, but there's no, like actual death threat. They actually can trigger a near-death experience. So they can happen both with a fully functional brain and when you are 3 minutes dead. That's also something that I find really
So
strange, that they can happen
let me
in
let
both
me give
situations.
let me give you an experience I went through that really weirded me out, and I couldn't explain it for the longest time until I just accepted that maybe I just got this information secondhand, and I was able to formulate, what I thought I saw. So I used to own a sensory deprivation shop, and I did a 4 hour float. Which, if anybody's done a sensory deprivation float, they'll tell you anything more than 30 minutes is a really, really, really long time. And I did a 4 hour float. Now, during this 4 hour float, I like I had an out-of-body experience. I truly felt like I was outside of my body. In fact, I had this experience. It was a life-changing experience. That's how fucking intense this shit was. So I'm not here to discount anybody's experience because I had my own experience. But as I was leaving my body, I felt myself go through the roof and into the sky, and I could see the top of the roof. And on top of my roof, something I was not aware of, or at least I was not aware that I was aware of this, there were some AC units on top of the roof of my building, right? Most AC units are on the, we're behind the buildings because it was an older, like, the way this area of town was, the AC units were all on the ground, but ours weren't. They were on the roof, and I had no idea that they were on the roof until I had this experience, and I was talking to my landlord about it, and I said, yeah, I went up, I saw some AC units on top of the roof,
I believe you.
and I was like, are they up there? Yeah, well, he confirmed for me that they were up there, in fact, that they weren't on the ground, and I was like, that's so crazy. I cannot explain how the AC units, how I knew that the AC units were on top of the roof, but they were. So then I started questioning myself and saying, how did I get that information? Well, how do I know that I've never had, like I didn't subconsciously remember an AC unit repair guy walking on the roof, or people walking on the roof and asking my landlord, hey, what's going on? Or having my neighbors say, yeah, we're having AC problems, and then I just put two and two together. Oh, they're having AC problems, they're on the roof. And during this moment of extreme mental clarity, where I didn't have to worry about everything else, I was able to actually connect those two events and say, this is an AC unit being on the roof, and it manifested like something I just was not aware of. Yes, exactly.
Okay,
So that's why I'm kind of hesitant. Go ahead.
Okay, and I just want to say that there's actually another study undergoing called Aware2, Electric Boogaloo, no? It's called only Aware2, and it's actually going to test that. You know how they are going to do it? Because in these hospitals, they are going to put like in the roof a picture, a picture that obviously the patient didn't see. And if he ever gets out of his body and he managed to see that picture, they could confirm that that person actually got out of his body. And, so maybe there's
it's all lovely, but like you got to take this back to a very basic level, right? Let's just think about what an outer body experience would physically be. By what mechanism are you seeing outside of your body? What physically is happening? There isn't a physical explanation.
Yes,
for
there's
it,
no
right?
explanation.
There is no energy that can be measured. There's no soul meter that you can test to see if something out. What would be the physical thing that's happening? And that's
why it's
my question.
That's why it's supernatural. Okay, there have been some like quantum woo explanations, but actually nobody knows if this is actually happening.
Even quantum effects, we can measure a lot of quantum effects and study and recreate quantum effects.
It's not a quantum effect. I don't believe it.
I just don't think there is any physical explanation in the world, in the universe that we understand, in the physics that we know, that could connect what a out of body experience would actually be, beyond it being you tripping balls on some pretty powerful drugs.
Okay,
just look at T. He's obviously on some pretty powerful drugs.
Okay, I agree. That's a really powerful point. I guess we don't have a mechanism. Like there's nothing in physics that could explain this. But that's also the part where it's called supernatural. There's no actual scientific hypothesis. I think we can move to my final piece of evidence that I think is the best one. And
okay, before we do, so if I've got a triangle of sides 1, 1, and 1, what would be the internal angles?
Okay. Okay, 60, 60, 60.
Fuck, man, you ruined it.
Wrong. It can be up to 180, 180, 180. That's the right answer. No, we got to start coming. The right answer is, are we talking about Euclidean geometry or non-Euclidean geometry? That's the beginning of the right answer.
Non-Euclidean will be above 180. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, everything would be below 180. So 240 degree or 540 is the maximum amount of internal angles on a non-Euclidean triangle. That's the next one I'm gonna ask. What's the maximum amount of angles between all when you add up all the internal angles of a non-Euclidean triangle?
Yeah, but
See
they're
if
just
they
going to
get that.
go, yeah,
I
but
don't know.
Moore's
I
level,
don't know.
so
I
you're
actually
like,
don't know.
no. Okay.
Okay.
Guys in the chat, by the way, if you want to ask Rampant any questions about his dumbass, fucking idiotic supernatural beliefs, then please feel free to super chat or anything, and we'll read them out before we leave tonight. Oh, he left.
Really
Well, I want to
complicated.
say that
You're
there's
really
nothing
hard
wrong with
to convince.
there's nothing there's nothing wrong with questioning these experiences
No,
because,
absolutely.
and I'm not saying questioning them skeptically, I'm saying questioning their validity from from just a believer point of view, because there's no one's denying that this happens. No one's denying that out of body experiences happen, that near death experiences happen, that people are, that says something's going on, but there's also nothing to say that this is completely inexplicable by modern day science. Yeah, there's some weird things that go on with the brain that we can't really test because it's neurological. We can just take experiences and come back with them. I mean, there's not a lot we can do with a brain of someone who is alive, I mean, we can, but
Especially not a
there's
fly.
not a lot, especially when you're
getting like information. Just
yeah. So, and there's nothing to like I said, like if we were to put them into a chamber and then put a picture out in the room that was not previously there, could they tell you what was on that picture? Could they tell you the numbers that are on the sheet of paper? Things that you may have. Let's say you have a picture there and you walk into the chamber. And then you just glance at the picture real quick and turn your head away, or they flash the picture at you one time, real quick, one frame, where it's not enough to discern, but it's maybe enough for your brain to pick it up. Maybe your brain subconsciously picks it up, and you go into this near-death experience. You come out and you say, "Yeah, the number on the picture was 666," for instance. So then you say, "Oh yeah, well you were exposed to that number just previously," or if you have an experience. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
what happens if someone can get some sort of information and there's no physical way for them to get it? Will that convince you that the supernatural is real? No way, no possible way to get that information. Not that the
supernatural is real, not that supernatural is real, but that there is a further further need to look into that phenomenon, because it's a body of evidence that suggests that something is real to me. It takes a body of evidence, not just a single piece of evidence. If it was a single piece of evidence, I'd be a fucking flat earther because of the whatever, the fucking oil platforms, the black swan.
Yeah, water doesn't cool.
But the body of evidence takes more than just one experience or more than just one explanation and tries to find something that's consistent amongst all of the experiences.
Yeah.
So once we can find a way to find a consistent link. Okay.
I have something like that. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
I was going to say that very much like Clarke's first law, which says that any sufficiently advanced technology is going to be indistinguishable from magic, right? It's also similar that a lot of experiences can be seen as magic if we don't have the explanations for them. I mean, let's look back a couple of thousand years. Right? They thought the eclipses were the gods having a fight in the sky. That was the explanation for it then, or something. Crazy explanations for things that happen when you look in the night sky, because they didn't have the actual explanation. So magic or whatever seemed like whatever it was. For things like near-death experiences and basically all supernatural phenomenon, there is going to be an explanation for them within science, but maybe we just don't know it yet. But I think most things can be explained. But
yeah, okay, I understand, but isn't that like a bit like the supernatural then can never be proved because there can always be like a chance that there's a physical explanation.
Yeah, like I say with me and God, right? I don't have a belief in God, but I say that I could never prove that a God doesn't exist or doesn't exist. I can never outright say no, God doesn't exist, because I have no way
So
of of proving that. It's something that is unfalsifiable. Who's to say God didn't create the
so
universe in a way that we could explain it with science? I can't. Sorry, team. Yeah.
yeah, let me interject on this for a minute, because I used this explanation the other day when talking to somebody about the existence of Jesus, and I said, okay, so let's say that this, like, I come to you, or somebody comes to me, right, and he says, have you ever won the lottery? And I said, no, I've never won the lottery. He goes, you understand how hard it is to win the lottery? I said, yes, I understand exactly how hard it is to win the
Yes,
lottery. He
yes.
says, okay, well, tomorrow I want you to get up and I want you to say this prayer to Jesus Christ, and I guarantee you're going to win the lottery. And I say, okay, it's $1 plus a few minutes for prayer time. I pray, I pay my $1 to get the lottery ticket, and sure as fuck, I win the lottery, right? And the guy comes back to me and says, hey, I don't want any money. I just want you to believe Jesus is real. So do this tomorrow, and I guarantee you'll get the same results.
Okay.
Now, winning the lottery back to back is crazy, crazy numbers, right? So tomorrow I go and I pay the $1, I say my prayer, I win the fucking lottery. So then he says, okay, well, I'm going to save you some time. I'm not going to come here every day and verify that Jesus came down and helped you win the lottery. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you that every day that you say this prayer and you buy this lottery ticket, you're going to win the lottery because Jesus wants you to win the lottery. And so every day, I do it for 20 days in a row. 20 days in a row, I'm fucking convinced here that Jesus goddamn exists. But on the 21st day, I say, now let me test this. Today, I'm going to buy a lottery ticket, but I'm not going to say a prayer. And then the next day, sure enough,
Okay.
I don't win the fucking lottery. Okay, so then I've got all this mounting evidence to suggest that Jesus exists, when in reality it could be just somebody who has inside knowledge to the numbers on my ticket that I bought, as well as access to the lottery. Anything, let's say it's a hacker, for instance, anything that we would consider something to be supernatural could always be explained by something of sufficient technology or information or knowledge. So even if we get to the point where we believe everything must be done by a creator, what it really means is it may just have been
Okay.
done by somebody who has sufficient knowledge and sufficient technology to be able to go and convince me that what I'm experiencing is a religious experience, when in reality it's not even close to being religious. So there is no real
Okay.
way
Okay.
to verify whether God does or does not exist. There is a way to invalidate him, because there should be a prediction that can be made based on the existence of a supernatural deity, and we should be able to test that prediction.
Okay, I actually have like my final piece of evidence that I think that actually address all those points. It actually has a really clear statistical, like, if there is nothing supernatural happening, we should see this, and if there is something supernatural happening, we should see another thing. So
Okay.
I guess that's the best that's like the best evidence I have, and if that doesn't convince you, then I'm done. I don't have nothing more. Okay.
Okay. All
So
right.
let me see. Okay, let me see. Go to number 6.
Number 6.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Number 6. Here we go. First line of
Okay.
evidence:
So
pseudo-scientific evidence.
yes, I put pseudo in parentheses because I actually think it's scientific, but some people think it's pseudo-scientific, so I put it in anyways. Okay. So this one is a Gansfeld experience, and they happen in something that actually Tim spoke about. The sensory deprivation state.
Okay.
When you are like in a floating and you don't have like any stimulus, and you start like hallucinating and seeing weird things.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is
Okay,
my
that's
fucking.
the
This
yes,
is the business I ran for 3 years. So I'd love to talk about
yes.
shit like this. Let's go.
It's called the Gansfeld experience. That's the name of the event. So go down, go down. So, like in the 60s, more or less, some people say, "Hey, maybe we can use this to actually test if people have telepathy. If they can get things from other places." So they devised the following experiment. Okay, so you have two participants. You have person A and person B. Okay, the first one goes to room A. Okay, and he's put in this sensory deprivation state. They usually put you like ping pong balls here. They put like a red light and like a pink noise, like a static noise.
Yeah.
So that person stays there and starts like tripping balls and all kind of things. And
Sounds
another
fun.
person goes to another room and he's put in front of some image, some music, some video, like any sort of thing that can get you information. It's usually either a picture or either a video. And the person in room A, it's like hallucinating, and the other person tries to send him to the person in that room, tries to send him the information he's seeing, okay, like the image he's seeing.
Okay.
And then after some time, the person that was like tripping balls, it's moved to another room, and they put him the original picture the person B saw, and 3 fake pictures, like 1 real and 3 decoys. And he must choose one among those, like based on what he saw in his hallucinatory state. He must choose one and like what he thinks the other person saw. Do you understand the idea of the experiment?
Yeah. So
Okay.
he's given 4 cards and he has to choose the right one.
Yes, but he the other person they never saw. They never met, and there was no communication.
Okay.
Okay, go down. So where is the catch? Okay, so we actually know that if there is nothing, like there is no information leakage, we know how many times the person will get it right. We know that with enough tries he's going to get it 25 times right. Yeah, because 1 in 4 guessing when you get 25. But actually there have been 5 meta-analyses, and of those 5, 4 of them show there's a deviation of 30%. And I mean, I talk here with thousands of trials, and we don't get 25%. We get around 30%. Okay, go down. I'm going to show a bit the analysis. So the first 2 were done in 1982. They gathered a lot of studies. They got 42 studies actually, and they were done by 2 people: Charles Honorton, who was a believer, a parapsychologist, and Ray Hyman, who was a psychologist and he was a skeptic. Okay, so Honorton actually got a 55% hit rate, and Hyman said no, this was done wrong, and he said there were 3 major problems. First, the optional stopping, that when the parapsychologists were doing well, they like stopped, they like closed the experiment, when they were doing well. The other were sensory cues. He said that there were visible marks in the pictures. There was the walls weren't well like soundproof, and the file drawer effect. That he said that some studies that were against this weren't actually published. So actually, Hyman, after taking into account all this, calculated, and he got a 33% hit rate, which is still above 25%. But he said that there may be other like problems with the studies. So go down. Okay, so they gathered it, and after talking, they agree on the following statement. There is an overall significant effect that cannot be reasonably explained by selective reporting or multiple analysis. We continue to differ over the degree to which the effects constitutes evidence of psi or telepathy, but we agree the final version awaits the outcome of future experiments conducted by a broader range of investigators and according to more stringent standards. So they say, hey, there is something happening here. It may be a flaw, it may be real, we need more studies. Okay, go down. So this was in the 80s, so
Okay.
they agree to a gold standard, like first a direct hit. Okay, so the person must choose one of the 4 images. He cannot say like, I think maybe this one, but it may be the other one. Okay, he had to be sure, like this is what the picture I choose. Okay. Randomization of the targets, optimally done by a computer, and taking all the precautions, the better walls, better equipment, the people more farther away. And sadly, Hyman then backtrack on his claims, and he say the Ganzfelds were trash because the United States was studying this in the Project Stargate, and they asked him. So that was like the fierce fight between this experiment between skeptics and believers. But as you can see, they were like improving the ways they were doing this. Go down. Okay, so there was another meta-analysis. This one, who sadly died in 1994. And this one was actually done with Daryl Bem, which is a social psychologist, and he's a professor from Cornell University. So he's a guy who knows actually what he's doing. And they created a paranormal research lab, and they developed the AutoGanzfelds, which this time they use random number generators, and they actually take into account all the critiques by Hyman, like better words, randomize better, take care, there are no cues in the works and everything. And after combining all these sessions, they actually still got a 32% rate, which is of course above the 25. And the effect size was calculated at 100. So this event, if it's real, it's so small that you need like hundreds of trials to start seeing it. Okay, go down. So there were some objections. First, there were target bias. That basically, Hyman say that some people have like a preference for certain images, like the sea or like flowers, and that people can like tend to choose more that images, and if those images are like the target, they will get it more times right. But some reply that bias works in both ways, so this will balance out in larger trials. And there was a bigger hole, that all these studies were done in a single laboratory with the same researchers, so there was no actual replication. Okay, and there was, of course, a parapsychologist was cast, someone was faking the data, which was the Sargent scandal. So they say again, okay, we need more research. Go down. And then we get to the third and fourth meta-analysis. After all this speaking, all these objections, they again tried it. Milton and Weissman, which were actually skeptics, published in the Psychological Bulletin, which is an actual serious journal, a new study which go from 1987 to 1997, and they found nothing. Okay, they found a 27.5 hit rate, but with a non-statistically significant results. Actually, Milton and Weissman included studies that were like outliers, like really strange ones, because like using music targets when they usually is using videos or images. And actually, they took away a largely successful study which had a hit rate of 50%, which was done by Dalton, which used art students. And later, another 10 new studies were added, and actually the hit rate increased to 30.1, which was below the 34% from the previous meta-analysis, but which was still statistically significant. Go down. We are getting to the final one. And this one is just saying more. They actually analyzed the study of these four meta-analysis, and they found that when you select volunteers, for example, if you choose persons that have personal paranormal experiences, which are believers of paranormal experiences, and which are trained in meditation, they tend to do better than people that don't have these trails. Okay, so actually there's like a difference. People who believe or have experience in the supernatural actually perform better than people who don't. Okay, go down. And this one is I took it from Wikipedia. This is contemporary research. Okay, so the last meta-analysis was done in 2010 by Storm, Patricio, and Tresoldi, and they found a hit rate of 32.2%. which was statistically significant. Hyman, which was the guy from the beginning, the skeptic, actually say that meta-analysis are not fit to do this kind of job because they have too many variables and too many errors. But I think that that's a problem, because I'm seeing that skeptics, as the Ganzfeld studies advance, they have to change and move their critiques to make them more and more complex. Go down. So Raunder actually replied. He said that after using a bias factor, the Bayesian statistics, he said that despite that there was still a probability of how many was of 330 to 1 for these events to actually happen. He said that since it's extraordinary evidence require extraordinary evidence, since extraordinary beliefs require extraordinary evidence, 330 to 1 is still not sufficient to prove the evidence. Okay, go down. Yeah, that's more of the same, go down. Of course, Storm replied, he said he was wrong because they omitted some studies, yada, yada, go down. And the Bierman study actually tried to look at all this evidence, and they say, okay, assuming there are a certain number of questionable research practices, or these sorts of things, how possible is that these results still happening? And they still found that we conclude that the very significant probability cited by the Ganzfeld meta-analysis is likely inflated by questionable research practices, whose results are still significant, with a statistical significance of 0.003. Okay, so even if we take into account many questionable research practices, the evidence is still not explained away. Okay, go down one. And okay, so what can we make out of all this? So what I've seen is that despite the procedure is getting better and better, and there are modifications to avoid any sensory cue, the effect still exists and is still around the 30%. And it has been actually shown that people that are selected, like art students or people with previous supernatural experiences, they still perform better than non-selected people. So I think the evidence is highly suggestive that there is telepathy going on. So that's it.
Okay. I'm going to let Team answer that to start with because he's got more experience with float tanks. Team, have you ever had any experiences that could be analogous to what Rampant just explained? No, I think Team's gone away now. All right.
Yeah. What do you think about it?
All right. Okay. So for me, there isn't enough statistical significance to show any evidence. At the most, it's under a third of them getting it right, which still, if I was asked to develop a technology for the military and it worked a third of the time, they wouldn't say it was very good, and something only working a third of the time, I think that can be explained by chance, as far as I'm concerned. But again, we have to go back to what would be the mechanism by which these telepathic signals are,
Yes, but I mean, if it was by chance, we should expect 25%. I mean, we know that, 1 in 4, that's after a long trial, which will get 25, not 30, that's the weird part. We actually know what we should expect in a normal situation.
Yeah. Just one sec. Guys, I see some arguing and stuff going on in the chat. Do me a favor, just nip it in the bud, cut it out. Everyone have a good time. I don't really care what's happening. Just stop it and be friendly, please, everyone. Thank you. Right, yeah, so I don't think there's enough evidence to suggest that it works, that there is any psychic connection. Having between a quarter and a third of it getting right. I mean, if there was a, if it was working, if there was a psychic connection, there would be times when it was a lot more. And then, like the study said, they're using people that are maybe more susceptible to suggestion, right? Art students. I don't know why it's art students, but I guess that them. But people that have previous experience with psychic endeavors. These are the type of the people that would get hypnotized at a show. Because they're open to suggestion. But the actual Gansfield experiment itself, there's so many questions as to the methodology of what they actually did.
Yes. It's a really complex subject, there are papers in favor, paper against, it can get really technical,
I have actually looked at this briefly before, and from what I understand, the main kind of takeaway was that most of the tests were hidden from the public. They only released ones that showed a successful, at least a slightly successful, statistical significance in favor of it. They purposely omitted a whole bunch of results that would make that number a lot lower.
Yes, that's called the file drawer effect, and in fact, it was one of the first one that Hyman pointed. Like, hey, maybe some people are just not publishing the negative results, and that's why we get this. I don't think that's possible these days because parapsychology is such an underfunded research field that the amount of studies that it should be hidden are really 80, 2000 in some cases. So it's not possible. I actually think that if this is completely natural, the explanation must lie in some statistical quirk that we haven't figured out. It may be that because the studies tend to get really technical. I read the papers, and also I have a medicine degree, and I can read some of these papers in the statistical level. They can get really technical, and I must say I don't understand them all entire. So yeah, it could be that the experiments. I don't know. What do you think it's? Do you think this should be researched more? Will you put money in this?
No, I wouldn't put money on it. Any claim, any claim needs researching, right? If there's a claim that this happens, then research should be carried out. But let's be real about this. There is no scientific evidence to suggest that any kind of psychic connections can be created. Team, now you're back. I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Have any of your clients, when you had the business, ever reported any kind of psychic happenings or anything from the float tank?
Yeah, sure. Everybody wants that experience. It's real easy to have the experience when you want the experience. That's one of the things that I learned from doing sensory deprivation. I'll tell you, a lot of the things, a lot of my current beliefs in religion come from my sensory deprivation experiences. I think that's one of the reasons I don't believe in God anymore. I think it's one of the reasons that I've stopped believing in supernatural stuff, and because I would see people, just from my own experiences as well as the experiences of the clients that I would have, it was almost as if if someone is looking for God, right, then they're going to go in there and say, I watched a video online that says that I'm going to see things. I'm going to have these astral projections. How do I do that? Well, right then and there, you're already setting yourself up for having an astral projection. Because you've just you've just told me, number one, that you don't, first off, nobody wants to waste their money, right? So if I can come out of that, experience saying I spent money and got exactly what I wanted out of it, it's going to give me some kind of self-satisfaction, self-confirmation that what I did was not a waste of time and resource. But that doesn't necessarily mean that what happened was a result of what I did and not just a mental, my mind playing tricks on me. Because the mind is One thing we have to understand here is the mind is in control of everything in your body. You are in control of nothing. You can't even control your own thoughts. I could flash an image on the screen, and you cannot preset what your reaction to that image is going to be. But your mind is completely responsible for the reaction, not you at all. You know what I'm saying? You can't even it's a really hard concept to explain, but what it boils down to is that experiences themselves are driven, controlled, interpreted, all that by one single organ, and that organ can easily fool yourself for its own satisfaction. And I went through it. I saw people going through it. I had people coming in asking me if doing sensory deprivation floats would cure them of certain diseases. Like, you would not believe it. And I was like, no, that's not how it works. What it is,
Do
it's
you
an
ever saw, like,
extreme
something?
relaxation event. I'm sorry? Go
Do
ahead.
you saw something like? Do you ever get information from outside? You know, like some information that
Well,
you
yeah,
couldn't
so
get.
like in my like for instance, in my experience, when I said that I had noticed that the air conditioning units were on top of the building and not behind the building. And the only way that I could come up with that explanation is that I saw it while I was floating. But how did I see it? What did I really see? Did I even see anything? Did I manifest what I saw? Is what I saw the result of all the information that I've taken over the previous times that I lived there, all the subconscious information, the subconscious experiences, the subconscious conversations that I took place in just by being in the same room, or being, having my neighbor talking to his wife about it in the back room while I'm in the front area of their shop, which was next to mine. Let's say I'm in the front area talking with one of the other employees, and the owner is talking with his wife in the back. How do I know that I'm not picking that information, that the AC units are on top of the roof, from those two people having the conversation, a conversation that I'm not even a part of? It's just happening. There's no way to eliminate that from being a possibility. So it comes down to, do I just accept
Yes,
as
but
what I saw as being supernatural, or do I leave it open?
the studies were
Go
the
ahead.
studies were specifically designated to avoid like the people knowing anything, you know. So I still
Right.
think
And so I
the
saw,
studies is weird, you know. It's a month for further research. Sadly, there's not
yeah,
much
for
money
sure.
put in
I
the
don't, well, because it's pretty much been debunked. If the money was out there when James Randi put it out there and said, "Hey, you come show me supernatural, I'll give you $1 million." It wasn't like they didn't come for that money. The psychics came for it.
Yes, yes.
The metal guys came for it. Everybody came for it, but that money stayed safe for a very, very simple reason. Because making a claim of supernatural is falsifiable. James Randi understood this. If you say, I can read your thoughts, I can design an experiment with controls that will test your ability to read my thoughts. And as long as it's above above what's expected, when you say, well, like with him, he would do there'd be 10 people there. Now, if you can truly read the thoughts, then you should be able to catch at least what 7 of them are saying. Statistically speaking, maybe you'll catch 3, but what statistics saying, it's a statistically significant that what you're doing is actually what you're doing. They would have to have many more than 3 3 right answers, and no time could anybody ever hit that number of answers, because it's not real. That, or at least
Yeah,
what
but
they're claiming is not real. I'm not going to say
yes, but
everything's not
the
real. I
studies,
choose to believe that it's
you know,
not
the
real, but
studies did exactly
go
that. You
ahead.
know, they did exactly that. They knew what was like the statistical normal, which was 25, and they got a 30. You know, after a long trial. Of course, this cannot go to the James Randi experience, because how can you put like thousands of people into a James Randi experiment? You know, it's not like you cannot put it in that sort of contest. But they actually did what you say. You know, they put a lot of people and they got a statistically deviation. You know, now it can be a
And
statistical
how many
error. It
people
can be
were in there? How many people were in there? Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's what I
thousands. You
was going to
know,
bring up next. I was going to
among
say,
like the five
let's say we
meta-analysis.
did, And the study is
No, no,
published and peer reviewed.
I mean, they have been like 5 meta-analyses. I think like they have been like how much? Probably 300 studies. Like the evidence. Of course, there are skeptics, but what I've seen is that even when the studies are like done better and better and better, the effect still appears. Even when they do it better. So what's going on there? That's my question. I think that's really hard evidence in favor of the supernatural.
Yeah.
I don't think
Because
there's
it's
enough
been
evidence that. Well, I don't think there's enough evidence, and I don't think there is any evidence that can be replicated and tested. Like the most evidence there is that there was, instead of 25% hit rate, there was maybe a 31 or 32% hit rate, and
Yes.
that's without taking into account all of the studies that were disregarded. And like I said,
Yes.
if I was paid millions of dollars to build a machine for the military, and I went to them with something that worked a third of the time, it wouldn't exactly be called a success. So
Did you knew that the U.S. government actually studied this to see if they can use it as weapons? Like if they can
I
use
can
it.
fully believe that the U.S. government
It
would
was
study
called the
anything
Stargate
the
project.
potential. Yeah.
Now let me bring this up for a second. Being a ex-U.S. government
Okay.
employee, so if something like that was legit, they would not have stopped putting money into it, putting research into it. It was something worth investigating. They did it for years. They didn't just treat it as a one. They actually had people coming in to do the psyops and stuff like that for years. And what ended up happening was they realized that it was a complete waste of money. There was nothing yet that was able to be taken out that was useful. It was a throwaway account, a throwaway budget, and they said, yeah, well, not worth investigating any further. But let's say that they did get information out of that. They would not have stopped investigating it. They would not have been so open about the mistakes of the ideas, saying, yeah, we did test it, but it was just not found. They would have just
Yes.
hushed it and said, okay, let's say we're not doing this anymore and continue to do it. That there is no psyops division of the military anymore. Ex-military guys saying that, of course, you can say, well, that's what you're trained to say, but no, there's no. All that stuff is just so statistically
Okay.
insignificant that there's no information you can get out of it. If you hit from random chance, not because you had any special powers.
Okay, but actually, if you go to the Wikipedia of the Stargate project, which was the actual USA project, a statistician, which was Jessica Utz, was contracted to study the evidence, okay, to see do we continue, do we close the program, and she actually said no one who has examined all of the data across laboratories, taken as a collective whole, has been able to suggest methodological or statistical problems to explain the ever-increasing and consistent result to date. Now, a skeptic, Hyman, actually said the entire contrary. He said, psychologists, such as myself, who study subjective validation, find nothing striking or surprising in the reports matching reports against targets in their Stargate data. So one says yes, one says no. So I'm
Right.
not sure that actually the Target project was like a complete failure. I'm not sure. Because
Yeah.
one was a
Okay,
psychologist and
so
was
Well, the
without
Stargate program was pretty good. I remember they went to Atlantis and wait, that was no. Sorry, carry on, team.
No, I was going to say that, yeah, there's going to be, differing opinions on that, especially I'm not sure how involved one opinion, the positive opinion was into the actual project or not, because I just don't know that information off the top of my head. So
she was appointed to
the
study it.
the the positive opinion, was the positive opinion a part of the study?
No, the positive and the negative were both appointed to study it, and they came to contradictory conclusions.
Okay.
So
Well, then I
maybe
would
the
say
reasons.
I would say it's about like yeah, well, I mean they need I would say with only two opinions it's really hard to come to a conclusion of to whether it was actually beneficial or not. I just know that the military stopped doing the PSYOPs programs, I believe, in the late 70s, early 80s, maybe it was, when they really stopped doing it.
In 1995, it was when they decided to close it.
95? Okay, yeah. But
But
I guess probably up until the end of the Cold War, maybe. But there's just like,
yes,
if it was significant to the actual military, they would still be using it today against,
they will still be using
against
it.
the
That's
terrorists.
true. That's true. Mm. They will still be using it. Now,
But I've seen some interesting
evidence.
stories. I will say I've seen some interesting stories. I just don't know if those stories that are
Yeah.
truly interesting are replicable. If they're not replicable, then they're not science. They're just chance. If they are replicable, then there's something to study there, because with replication shows strength in belief. So, like I said, if you can't replicate what you're doing, there's nothing to strengthen your belief that that's really what's happening.
Yeah, I do want to point out that you
Okay,
list
so
some extremely
yes.
good evidence for supernatural, and that's the fact that there's a talking skeleton on the stream with us.
Team Skeleton, yeah.
Yeah, Team Skeletor, that's right.
Skeleton, you know.
Team Skeletor. Yeah, fuck off, rampant shithead idiot. I don't even have my dinger's not set up right. I'd live ding you right now. In fact, hold on. I
Okay,
do
but
it. Yeah, screw you.
any evidence, like, you think someone is like, any evidence is good? Like, what do you think about all I showed? Like, the conclusion.
Yeah, Team, I let you
Well,
answer
okay,
that
so
first.
evidence that's good has to be evidence that someone else who's never heard of it can replicate. So, for instance, I say, look, I have this experience. We'll take it back to the sensory deprivation because that is my supernatural experience in life. So, when I did my sensory deprivation float, I floated for 4 hours, right? I have memories that extend well beyond 20 hours of memories of what I was doing, of thoughts I was having, conversations with myself. I didn't have anything like, I didn't see anybody or talk to anybody. There was no God in my thing. It was just simply something that was supernatural to me, right? So if I tell you, this is what I did, this is where I went, this is the map I took to get there, if you can't replicate that, then that experience, there's a good chance that that experience was unique to my experience, that it's not really science. It's not really something that is governed by the laws of physics other than, the laws of neuroscience, let's say, the random things that are happening in my brain from my own personal experiences and my own history. If that's the case, then it's not really science, It doesn't mean that I'm actually traveling to distant stars and I'm touching black holes and I'm, seeing air conditioners on top of my shop that weren't previously aware of. Now, if I go to you and I say, look, you put this float tank in your room, you get the temperature to this degree, this temperature, turn off all the lights, make sure it's all dead dark, pitch black dark, and you're going to actually float above your roof. You'll be able to turn over and see the top of your roof, and then you'll go off into the sky, and you'll continue to go off into the middle of nowhere in the middle of space, and that's what happens to you. And then we say, okay, now let's go tell somebody else to do this, and they do it, and it happens. And then we don't tell another person, right? It completely
Yes.
don't tell them. We just say, hey, do this right here and tell me what happens to you. And he comes back and he says, hey, I floated above my house. I turned around and looked down. I saw the house. I went off to Alpha Centauri. I touched a black hole, all without us, implanting those ideas into his head. Then we're starting to build strength in an idea. Then we're starting to build strength in a science behind something. Something else is going on that we need to find out. What if it turns out that that's just a chemical reaction in our brain, that because we're all human and we all have we share these same ideas of, like, when I say looking down of your house, I don't have to explain to you physically what I'm doing to look down on top of my house. You just know it because you understand that, you understand those concepts, those basic English concepts or basic human concepts at this point. So,
Okay, I see.
if we can
Can
get
I
to the
ask you
point,
a
I'm sorry, go ahead.
hypothetical question? Can I ask you a
Yeah, sure.
hypothetical question? Okay, so Tim, can you go to uh, page 4 from the PowerPoint?
Yeah, let me bring that up.
Okay, yes.
He did call you
Okay, I
team.
want to
I
ask
think he
you.
meant to say junior team.
Junior team. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
Was that Robin?
okay, I've never actually seen a real one of these, but I want to ask you, if one of these were real, would you believe in the supernatural? I want you to see those two images and tell me, do you find something weird in them?
I mean, not just by looking at them, no.
Okay, they are called permanent paranormal objects. Basically,
Is
they
there
will
a
be
crack
like
there?
the holy grail of paranormal.
Looks like there's
Okay,
a
let me explain
crack
it.
there.
So, these objects, if they exist, they can only be produced by paranormal means. So, for example, here we have like a tinfoil and a paper, and they are connected. Assuming there is no hole and they got connected, some say that could only be produced by paranormal means. Now,
Oh,
that
yeah, yeah,
picture
yeah.
is
I got you. I
actually
got you.
okay. That picture is actually not real because you can actually produce this effect using some weird chemicals. Okay, so that's not possible. But the other one, the one of the two rings. Okay, actually that's a real picture. It was taken from, they say, two wooden rings that were connected and were from two different trees. And according to an X-ray they say they took, I never seen it, they didn't have any cracks. So if you ever saw an object like that, would that convince you that's supernatural? Because there's
Not
no
at
way to
all.
connect two
Not
rings.
no, no because yeah.
Right?
Hold on. Well, yes, there is. So metal has different properties under when heated. I mean, you can weld things together, for instance. And I'm not saying these are welded together, not at all. But I'm saying that there's metallurgic properties that I'm not aware of completely. So if I saw
Yes,
this,
no, I
I
mean
would
that
definitely
can be
think it
done.
was man-made. Yeah, I
Yes,
would definitely
but
think it was
how about
man-made.
the,
If
how
I
about the
if I was
rings?
presented with something that was, I'm sorry,
How about the, because the
I
one
didn't
of
hear
the
what you.
paper and the tinfoil, the paper and the tinfoil
Yeah,
one, they can actually be done by natural means, that was the bunker.
yeah,
But
yeah.
how about the wooden rings? Two wooden rings from different trees
Oh, okay.
connected,
I
and there
didn't
is
know they
no
were wooden. Okay, I'm sorry. I missed
they're
the
wood.
wooden. I
No,
just thought they were just two rings.
yes,
I don't know. I
they
would
are
have to look
from,
into it and see. I don't think it would still not be supernatural to me. To me, I would want to know how they did it. Like you said, if it showed to be something supernatural, that would be something worth looking into. But I still don't think that that's proof for the
No.
supernatural. Because, for instance, I mean, you could take that. You could say these were two rings from two separate trees, but what if they came from the same tree and they were just hollowed out independently of each other? From the same
yes,
trunk. Well, then you could get this scenario if they were
yes,
just
Or
like
but from
each
two
ring was
there's a
hollowed
there's a
out independent of
possibility
the
if
other
the
one.
two trees grew next to each other and like some of the branches intertwined and grew like that. That it could be a
is that
naturally.
possible?
I mean,
I'm not sure. Like,
I've seen trees that swallow entire benches and even a bike that's been there for too long. There's no reason why if one branch leant against a tree that then that tree couldn't grow around the branch from the other tree, and then if you were to cut those two branches separately, you can make something like that from the two intertwined branches. There's ways that this could be done.
And I mean, yeah, I mean, especially knowing it's wood. I mean, it would make it easier if it was, if it was metal. I think just because you have it's a little
yes,
bit
it would
different.
be really easy,
It's
but
non-organic.
with wood, it's a bit more
Yeah, with
complicated,
organic, it's a
because
little harder, but I would need to see
so
to make sure. I
that
mean,
would
how did they
confuse
know that
you.
they weren't cut? I mean, how do you know that somebody didn't just cleverly cut it and put it together like that in an effort to fool you or fool the viewer, whoever it may be? Um, I
Yes,
mean, I
that's
understand you
possible,
say they've done
I guess.
X-rays on it showing no cracks, but I would need to see the X-rays. I mean, the
Yes,
just I would
the
need to
rings
cite
disappeared.
to see the sources that are being cited.
Okay, that's fair. I was just putting in like an hypothetical case, like
Yeah.
if there was something
Well,
like that cannot be
Now,
done by physics, would you be like
for
it's
me,
supernatural?
it's not that I
yeah,
have a belief, but I suppose it is a belief. I believe that there is always an explanation in the natural world for things that have happened. You know, any supernatural event that people will talk about, I believe that there is a natural explanation for it. All right, and maybe it is just people not understanding certain things. Maybe it's people not remembering things right. But I don't think there's ever any evidence of a supernatural force or entity doing something, right? And that's what it all comes down to, right? We can have all these stories of, well, people saw this and people saw that, but we have to ask the serious questions, and that is, well, what physical mechanism is causing those things to happen? What physical connection would these two people's brains have? And how could we measure that connection? Because, you know, if there's a connection there, we should be able to measure what that connection is and recreate it. And there is no scientific explanation in the natural world for the apparent phenomenons that you know, because there is no such thing as psychic or telekinesis or out of body experiences. It is all things that can be explained in the natural world. We just might not be aware of what that explanation is.
Yeah, that's true. FTFE, do you remember the link I gave you
Which one?
in the Discord? The one from Tim Carroll. I can give you again. I can give me a second.
Oh, the telekinesis and quantum field theory.
Can you put it?
Yeah. Let me get that up.
Okay, no, that goes for in your point. You know, I mean, Tim Carroll, he's an astrophysics, I guess. Yeah, he actually looked into it, and anyone can go read it. But basically, he said that since there are only four fundamental forces, what force will account for all these paranormal phenomena? You know?
Yeah, that's my question. What
Yes.
mechanism, what force would be causing these supernatural events and miracles? There has to be something within the physical universe that can explain how these things happen. Because, I mean, right, you might have some belief in supernatural stuff, but magic isn't real, right? We all know magic isn't a thing. And
Yes.
that's what a lot of it would come down to. Miracles and all this, it would come down to some form of magic because it's supernatural. It can't be explained naturally. But we all know that doesn't exist.
Yeah, but I mean, he also say that there may be like other forces, you know, beside the four forces. Do you think that could explain these events if they were real?
Well, there is certain things about the universe we don't yet understand. For instance, we use the kind of placeholder name of dark matter and dark energy, right? We know that based on our observations of the universe, that a large portion of the universe's mass is made up of some kind of non-baryonic matter, right? Non-baryonic just means that we can't detect it, we can't measure it. But based on the effects of things that we observe, we know that there has to be something there. And that's why we call it dark matter, and you know, the effects dark energy and stuff is because we can see the effects, but we don't really know what's causing it yet. But that doesn't mean that there's some supernatural entity causing it. It just means that we haven't yet figured out a way to measure and detect what the dark matter and dark energy might actually be.
You say that by definition, the supernatural can never be proven.
Exactly.
Like
well, no, you can't prove the supernatural. I mean, it's impossible because supernatural, by its very definition, doesn't have an explanation in the natural world. So there is no way of proving something that doesn't have an explanation, right?
Okay, but imagine ghosts were proven real. Okay, they are proven. Would you say they are not supernatural? They are natural.
If they were proven, right, and we could test
Yes.
them, we could measure what there was, you know, and it was more than just some fuzzy videos and stuff on YouTube. You know, if it was proven to be real, then yes, it would be something we could explain. But that's a very big hypothetical because there's never been any proof of ghosts and stuff, you know?
Yes, there is.
I know there's actually somebody in the chat, one of my channel members, Mission Apparition Para, who is, I think he's like into supernatural and hunting ghosts and stuff. Mission Apparition Para, if you're there, tell us what exactly it is you do, because that sounds quite interesting.
There are people that up to 8 people have seen the same apparition at the same time, you know.
Yeah,
So
but again, it's
what is
anecdotal,
legal?
right? There's no actual evidence of that beyond 8 people going, well, I saw the same thing. You know,
Okay,
and
yeah.
it's not something that we can test and go, right, well, let's go and get a ghost and do some experiments on it, because there's no way to test that. It's by its very nature unprovable and untestable.
Yeah, let me speak a little bit on the mass hallucination, because that is an actual real thing.
Uh huh.
And
Yes.
it's been documented, in fact, in the Bible. I bring this up against flat earthers a lot. The story, I believe, of and I get this wrong. I think it's in Job. It's when he calls upon God to stop the sun in the sky so that the his army can have a chance to continue the battle on and win the battle. And so they look up, and of course, all these people are very religiously motivated, and they all think that God is on their side, and they're all looking for a sign of God. And they look up into the sky, and they see what appears to be this completely anomalous event going on, and they attribute it to God. But then you have somebody who's completely divested from that experience, right? Is looking at the same thing happening, but doesn't take God into account, doesn't have to have the religious aspect to the event that's happening. And what they document is a solar eclipse, where the other people document God stopping the sun in the sky, giving them more time for them to win their war.
Yes,
So
there was a war,
two
yes.
very similar events. Yeah, with one group way over here, thousands of people saw this as God stopping the sun, and a few people over here who were just aware of the eclipse that was going on, who didn't have a religious motivation, completely saw something else. So when you say that, a group of people see a ghost, or a group of people have an experience together, it's not convincing to me, because there's documented times in history where thousands of people had an experience that was completely explicable by someone who was not as invested in that the religious aspect as they were. So they saw something else.
Okay, so for example, the miracle of Fatima, even thousands of people saw it, but you think that it may be mass hallucination then?
Very much could be. Now, I've heard of the thing, because I watch a lot of Ancient Aliens, so obviously I've heard of the story. What?
Like ancient aliens,
Please,
really?
please just
Not saying
briefly.
it's aliens, right?
Oh yeah, no, no, no,
But
no.
it's fucking
But it's
aliens.
alien.
But do you believe in aliens?
Aliens,
Do you
guys.
believe in aliens?
I
Because
believe
aliens do
that
have an
intelligent life
attraction.
out there.
There has to be.
Well,
The
I
size
believe
of the
intelligent
universe.
life has. Yeah, I don't think that there's a possibility that we're the only intelligent life across the universe, unless some study comes out to show that we are truly the one in a billion billion billion. Where we're covering the total number of stars in the galaxy, the total number of planets that can actually go around a star. We're covering all possibilities to say that we truly are that unique. I'm just not prepared to believe that we're that unique, that we're the only things out there. If we are, then there's a great case for us to say, was there a hand in helping us get started or not?
Yeah.
And how do we know that? But that leaves us with the question of this right here. How do we know that we're just not, that what we consider God is just a much more advanced human being, or a much more advanced life form? Like, there's never a way to tell that the concept. See, for if you want to talk about God and supernatural, you really have to step outside of what physics allows us to do, what
Yeah.
any kind
Yes,
of
but I
branch
mean,
of science
can,
can explain.
nothing can be 100% proven, like never. So it's not only a problem with like God, it's a problem with actually everything, you know. You cannot prove like a
Yeah, no,
hundred
I
percent
agree. I
something.
agree. Yeah, we were talking
But
about this in my gaming live stream the other night, when we were talking about the amount, or what it means to believe. Like, there's a lot of people that are in our community that say, I don't believe the Earth is a globe. I know it's a globe. I know it because we have pictures of space. We have this. We have that. And I
you will
I
never
try to be
fully prove,
hesitant.
you
That
know, you
I
know.
say I know it colloquially. when I say I know something, I say there's so much evidence to suggest it, there's so much evidence to support it, that I feel like any belief against it would be like the exact opposite, like believing in something without evidence. So basically, the way I say it is like this: with God, it's right here. You say there's no evidence to get to support God. There's a lot of anecdotal. I'm talking about hard physical empirical evidence. There's none out there to suggest God exists, but there's a lot of people that still believe in God. That means when we take the factor of belief, right, or the factor of knowing, we say those people, they have a sliver, they have a Bible. That's all they have. They have a Bible that says that God exists, right? Everything else is belief, right? In science, we have all the evidence, but we still have this tiny bit of belief over here. And we have to have that belief, because what are we believing in? We're believing in our evidence, right? We're believing in the scientists before us that they did the experiment right. We're believing that they didn't fudge the numbers. We're believing that the consensus is actually testing the theories and the evidence put forth. Now, I do believe in it. That's why I say I believe in science, because science, when I'm looking at this belief bar, it's almost all evidence. It leaves so. I'm sorry.
Okay, that I would say that I always find like complicated the claim that people say that you can only believe things with evidence, because at the very rock bottom, we believe in things without evidence, everyone does it. For example, I believe there is an external world, or I believe the past is real, but I don't have no way of proving it, I only believe it to have other beliefs, because those are like the base. I'm not sure I make myself clear. Everyone believes in things without evidence at the rock bottom. You cannot prove everything you believe. It's impossible.
Yeah. Okay. So let me kind of clarify what I was trying to say just a little bit for everybody in the audience. I think you understand what I'm saying, but I want to clarify for everybody in the audience, and I have a good example to give. Now, you and I can both agree that there is something that pulls objects to the surface of the earth, correct? Even if it's just from our perspective, something's happening.
I'm going to leave you in charge 1 sec. I need to go and take a Riley, okay?
Yeah, that's cool. So something is happening, and objects. Well, yeah. When I drop this quarter, it heads to the ground, right? Something's happening. So what we do is we say, before there was Newton, right? We didn't know. It was just a belief that, oh yeah, everything we drop goes to the ground. But hey, sometimes we take a balloon, a lighter than air thing, we let go, it goes up in the sky. It doesn't fall down. So we kind of don't know. But then Newton comes around and he says, well, we've had data observations. We've had these observations and these data points that suggest that that there is something going on. That there. In fact, he didn't even want to bring it up and talk about it. He understood that it was real. Like, he understood the attraction was real, but he didn't really want to talk about it because something about a magical, invisible force reaching out and grabbing the moon and holding it to the earth seemed too magical to him, right? So, but he knew that there was a relationship between the mass of the objects and divided by the distance squared. He knew of that relationship. So when I say that, that belief bar where it's belief versus evidence, he's building up evidence, but he doesn't understand what's going on. He just has the evidence to support his belief. He still has an amount of belief. That's part of his understanding. Then comes Einstein. And Einstein says, okay, now we don't need the belief of some magical rope pulling on the moon. Now we understand it as something more than just magic. It's now space-time, curved space-time.
That's why Einstein snapped the one to Newton.
To belief. Right. That's why with every discovery, we shrink that need for belief. Right? That need to believe in something beyond what we already know. Now, we know that Einstein... Go ahead.
Okay, for example, it's like it's progressive, like each time we're getting like closer to the truth, right? I think you are seeing science like that. The way I see science is that every time a new theory comes, like fundamental parts of the old one, like crumble. For example, in the Newton paradigm, space and time were absolute, and gravity was a force. Then came Einstein, and all that was like erased, you know. So I don't see much progress, you know. I see merely change. So I'm not sure that I can say, for example, the theory of relativity is true, because all I've seen in history is that all theories are always proven wrong. So how can I know that the theories of science of today are
Well,
actually true? I have
okay.
very good reason to think they
So
are
it's
true,
not
because history shown me. Yes, that.
right. So what we'll do is we won't prove that Einstein was wrong. We'll just expand upon his theory, which is how that works.
It's
Is
expanding,
we
or
the
are you
theory of
proving
general relativity
something
is
wrong?
sound. Not necessarily. You're
Because
not proving
I don't see
something
the
wrong
expansion,
because
you
he
know,
just. I'm
because
sorry. Go ahead. I'm
what I
sorry.
see is that it's not like the Einstein theory is actually like expanding on the Newton. I see that very fundamental aspects of the Newton theory are being debunked, you know, like space and time being absolute, gravity being a force, you know. So I don't see the expansion. I see that all ideas are like destroyed and new ones are put.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why Newton said that gravity is not a force. I mean, well, he didn't say gravity is not. He says he didn't want to ascribe gravity to being a
Yeah,
force that works magically over distance instantaneously.
yeah.
He knew that that part of his idea was wrong, but he didn't quite understand the concepts of space-time, and
Newton
that
made it very clear
ultimately came
that
forth with
he didn't.
Einstein.
Yeah, Newton made it very clear that he didn't want a theory of gravity ascribed to him. Right? Newton very simply did a mathematical description of an observation. Right,
Right.
things accelerate at this, and based on the information that we have here, we can deduce this is because if a massive body is here and a body's here, it's going to cause this acceleration. Right? It was simply an observation that he described mathematically, and he had issues with it
Yeah.
because he knew that his math suggested that the Earth reached out as if by magic to instantly grab the moon and hold it in place. Right? That's what his math
Right.
suggested. But he knew that was a ridiculous notion. He knew that there was no, inherent magical property of mass which reaches out and grabs something instantaneously. And that's why he said, "No, I don't have a theory of gravity, and don't ascribe a theory of gravity to me. That's not what I'm doing." It wasn't until Einstein came along and he went, "Well, yeah, his observations were correct, but not accurate enough. And here is how to explain what he observed more accurately with deeper math to explain why it is more accurate."
But it's not an expansion of it, because the force of gravity was booked, and the space and absolute time aspect was the booked. Fundamental entities of the original gravity explanation of Newton are actually the booked. I don't see so much expansion. You know, I'm not sure if
Well,
I'm making myself
but
clear
the
enough.
thing is, Newton
I would agree
hasn't really
with
been
you.
debunked because his Newton's
Yeah.
calculations are still used today. Every single
Yes,
satellite
yes,
that's
the
put
math
in
is solid.
orbit,
Yes.
they use Newton's calculations to calculate the orbital trajectories and the orbital mechanics. Newton's never been debunked. It's the same as saying, well, I can debunk pi being 3.14 by
Okay.
saying pi is actually
Uh,
3.141. You
yeah.
know?
Equations are solid, but the entity in the blanket, you know,
Yeah.
no absolute space, there's no force. So I don't much of an expansion. Like for example, the
Well,
concept of the
okay, so Rampant, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question, Rampant. If you put a scale on a bucket, right? Let's say you put a scale at the bottom of a bucket and you super glue a half a kilogram object to that scale, right? So
okay.
you have it pushing down. Now, if I take a string and I start spinning the bucket faster and faster, and I measure that scale, right? That scale's going to show more and more force, right? It's going to
Yes.
measure something that's not even really there. You understand that force is not really there. The centrifugal force is really not a force pushing out in the opposite direction. It's just a consequence of the scale turning with circular acceleration, and the test mass wanting to continue on in a straight line. So it's measuring that force between that. The centrifugal force is a fictitious force that's caused by the centrifugal force. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the centripetal force. I'm sorry, centripetal force. So the same way, gravity is the same way. We can still calculate it. We can still take the circular acceleration of the bucket times
the equations
test
are right.
mass,
Yes, the
and then we
equations
can
are solid.
so we can still calculate that, even though that force is not a real force. The same thing happened with gravity. The same thing happened with Newton. Newton understood the relationship between an object being gravitationally bound to larger objects. Like, he understood that concept based on planets going around the sun, the moon going around the earth, the Galilean planets going around Jupiter. I mean, Galilean moons going around Jupiter.
Let me try to explain another more clear example. So,
Rapper,
for example,
could you refresh your connection? The audio is a bit choppy. Just refresh it. Come
sorry,
straight
okay,
back in.
okay.
I thought it was me. I thought it was me.
You know, you're always a bit choppy, but I mean that's just your face. It does that.
Hey, put me on full screen real quick. I had a request to do the wave, and since I have the stream on behind me, I have to wait for a second for it. I'm looking over here to watch when it goes up. As soon as it goes up, I'll hit it. Let's see.
There you go. You're back.
I'm gonna do it now. I'm gonna do it now. Let's see if it works. God damn it! Go! Ah!
It's too slow.
It's so far behind on the stream.
Yeah.
How far behind are you on your stream? Oh, there I go. Hold on. Now I've got to wait for that whole time to... Oh my God, fight. We need to get your internet fixed next, bro.
I selected low latency
so-
for this one. I don't know why.
So should I wait or what?
Right, no, carry on.
Okay, let me try to explain my point with another example, like more clear. So, for example, the concept of the concept of the atom, the current concept of the atom, completely different from the original version. So, the idea of the atom is not advancing. It's not like going forward. It's actually just changing. You know, we just change the concept of the atom for a new one. We are not like putting theory upon theory. We are merely like grabbing a theory because the very concept of the atom, like a little marvel, is really discarded today. You know.
Well, it's not
I
true.
don't see progress.
Well, you originally, you know, they saw, well, it's the atom, but now then they looked and they saw, well, the atom's made up of electrons, protons, and neutrons. But then they've looked further and found that there's subatomic particles, quarks, and gluons, and it's still building on what was before, and that's what science always does. Science always builds on what comes before. Even if what came before didn't completely explain something, it's still a progression of ideas. That is literally the definition of science. Science is a progression of ideas that advances when new information becomes available.
Not all the philosophers of science actually agree that Thomas Kuhn didn't believe in that, you know, and he was a really important part of the philosophy of science. Science as a progress, it's believed by some, but not by everyone, you know. Some think that you only change the paradigm. You are not like stacking, you are not getting closer.
I think in modern days everyone says that that's what science is, and is happy to build on what's come before. I mean, science always has been a progression of ideas. You know, you wouldn't have an idea if it wasn't for someone else pointing out something beforehand, and knowledge is built upon knowledge.
Yes, I agree, but as I say, I see that the entity not being like the original entities are not like being things. They are merely changed for new ones, you know.
Yeah, but those new ideas come from, you know, building on what has become before. Science stands on the shoulders of giants, B.T. Toast, you're right. Okay, anyway, what I think we're going to do is we're going to move on to Super Chats, and there's a couple of questions from the audience.
Okay.
So we're going to start with, we had a question from Scythe DK, who says that in the amputee section, let me bring that back up because I actually did see this.
I think, let me see.
What page was that on?
It started in, let me see, 31.
Right, okay, right, here we go, yeah, so, Where's my desktop catcher gone? Okay, so he points out that in this they say that they never found the leg. In the last sentence, they wrote that they never found the amputated leg. Why do you think that shows it could be true? If anything, that's evidence of the person being a liar.
You mean that the fact that they didn't found the leg?
Yeah. So the buried leg was never
yes.
found, which goes towards what I was saying, that it could all just be a fabrication from a beggar trying to make some more money, right? Why? I think his question is, why do you think any of this is sufficient evidence?
Okay, so can you put the Wikipedia page of this?
Yeah.
If you can. It's called Miracle of Calanda.
Let me just get that up. Miracle of Calanda.
Yes.
Come on.
Okay.
Calanda?
Go to. Okay, so. I'm using the Wikipedia page because it's like I tend to see Wikipedia as more neutral, you know, and it doesn't have like any tag in the page that say that it's being disputed. So I'm using that.
Right. Yep. So
And
what we're
because
looking
it's
at here?
easier than getting the actual book, but I can bring the book if you wish. Okay, so go to background. Okay, you are in background. The last paragraph. Okay,
On
says
what bit?
there-
Sorry.
in the
Background.
background.
Oh,
section.
yeah. Here.
Yes, the last paragraph. Okay, and you can see that in the last phrase it says, unable to help in working on the fields, he once again looked up begging, going around the neighborhood villages on a donkey back. Many people at the time must have witnessed his lower leg was missing. So if you are in a donkey, it's a bit more different or more difficult to actually hide your leg, you know? Okay, that's one point.
Yeah, I mean, I
Okay, I haven't
could agree
finished.
with that.
Wait. And go now to Thanksgiving and inquiry section.
Yeah.
Okay, the second paragraph. It says at the very end, also, the hole in the cemetery of the hospital of Zaragoza in which the leg has been buried was excavated and found empty. And if you go to the sources, it's actually the book I claimed from Vittorio Messori, who used the original transcriptions and like the original sources. So I think that first it was very difficult to hide the leg while riding on a donkey, and second they actually tried to find the leg in the hole and it was missing. You know, so it's not like
Yeah, but
there
to
were
me,
suddenly
to
three
me, that
legs.
says that the leg was never there in the hole.
I mean, it's possible, but it will
Yeah.
involve that the surgeon was lying, which it's possible, you know. So I was just trying to give a little more context.
What's your personal opinion on that? Do you think that it holds any validity, or do you think that it's just a story?
I like to put in like in numbers, like, you know, like 10 being I'm absolutely sure it's real, and 1 being this is fake. I will put it in like 4, you know.
Okay.
Because I think it's a very low quality evidence, but I use it like an introduction, you know.
Hey, as long as you don't think the Earth's flat, it's all good. Right. So we got a new member, Miss Musha 1992. Welcome to the Scrappers. Thank you very much. You can now use the cool emojis of Nathan Thompson in jail and Team Skeptic attempting to whistle, because Team Skeptic whistling is not a thing that happens in reality.
Can I ask you another favor?
Yeah.
Go to all the things I gave you. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a text, you know. A text. Can you see it?
Baptist.text.
Yes. Go to the last one. It says Miracle of Calanda Original Minutae.
Okay.
If people go to that link, they can see the original transcript made in the medieval times with all the explanations. So I'm not only taking like Wikipedia. I'm not believing merely in Wikipedia.
Yeah.
I actually read the entire document.
Okay, cool.
It's real, you know.
I'll
So
put-
that
I'll
people,
put-
because I saw
I'll
that
put the
some
link
people
to
were
that in the
saying,
chat so people can see it
Yes.
for themselves as well.
I saw some people say, oh, he was just using Wikipedia, and no, it's not just Wikipedia. And in fact, in the same link, I put page 59 because that's where the transcript of the doctors began. So if people want to read it, you can start from page 29. O sea, I mean 59. Sorry, 59.
Awesome.
Okay, that was just clarifying it.
Okay, let me just do something in a second. Okay. Right, so then we've got from Elia Moon for $5 says, FTFE, you have to watch the ad that I sent you in Discord. It's 1 minute long, but you'll appreciate it. Also, just support money for your breast pump. Team, stop fucking telling people that I need breast pumps.
I don't call it a breast pump. I call it a fucking nipple ejaculator.
Nipple ejaculator, yeah. I'm just letting that download and then I'm going to play that video. So give me 1 second while that downloads. Here we go. This is an ad from Elia Moon and will help support my breast pumps, apparently.
Okay, maybe I can put a person here, or maybe a boat here, or... I don't know. I suck. No wonder my parents got a divorce.
Sounds like you need Team Skeptic Strong Academy.
Who?
That's right, Team Skeptic Strong Academy.
Well, it's worth a shot, I guess.
Team Skeptic Strong Academy takes you from zero to hero and pooper to proper. You'll go from vile, disgusting pieces of shit like these to beautiful, magnificent works of art like these. Call now for art supplies, a cool hat, and a dinger. And for the first 5, no, 10, no, 15 callers, we'll give you a special behind-the-scenes look at how the man himself, Team Skeptic, does his art. He'll show you step by step how he builds all of his things, like, I don't know, I think this is a boat or something.
Oh fuck, am I on screen while I do this?
Yes.
So join Team Skeptic Strong Academy now and get your parents back together. Join now.
I'm Father Skeptic. You are a fucking
Artist.
That was brilliant.
Genius.
Oh my fucking god, dude. Who fucking made that? That was beautiful.
Oh, well, that was punchy in it, wasn't it? And Elia Moon
I like
sent me
that. Oh my
so-
god, am I on the fucking screen while I did that?
You're a fucking artist.
Yeah, I'm a fucking artist. Thank you, Elia Moon. Philhammer335 for $2
Oh
says
my God.
0 kills, 95 deaths team. Oh, are you counting teams COD playing?
Shit, man. That's awesome.
Jessica G for $2 says, who's the Karen with the giant red hat? That's you,
Oh
team.
no, where's Karen at? I'm actually, hey, I'm gonna tell you guys something. In tonight's video that I'm recording, I just call them Karen the whole time. I don't even call them Chad. I'm just gonna call them Karens.
No,
They're
that's
all
what I'm
Karens to me.
Yeah, male Karens just get called Karen. Wear a fucking mask,
Yep.
Karen. J.L. Warren for $1.99 says, FTFE, I would agree that team is a red cap. Yeah, you're the red cap from Pokemon. Tommy Gronville for 20 Nokia says, rampant is wrong. Therefore, there, balance restored. Yeah,
Okay.
rampant, you're wrong because Tommy Gronville says so. How do you feel?
I cannot argue against that. You know, that's...
Well, yeah, you can't argue against Tommy. I mean, you're just stupid if you fucking try and argue against Tommy. God.
He won.
Yeah. God of Thigh Gaps for 50 Nokias says, I will watch in the morning, make it a backyard of Planned Parenthood type dumpster fire. Let it burn. It wasn't too much of a dumpster fire tonight because we didn't have a piece of shit constantly interrupting me. We had an awesome person who came with actual evidence, something to discuss, didn't act like a dickhead. Flat earthers, pay attention. This is how conversations work.
Yeah, I was
Thank
going to
you.
say, this is very similar to like the conversation that we had with Rachie and Keith, where it was just a discussion of ideas that may or may not align with one another, but they're just ideas, you know,
Yeah.
they're just the ability to, you know, to express one's personal beliefs onto another person. It's totally cool to do that. And the ability to have back and forth conversation is definitely lost when it comes to most flat earthers, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Because
thanks, Rampant. Appreciate it.
they'll be presenting evidence.
That's part of entertainment, you know.
Yeah. Let me and Team just show you briefly how it works with
Exactly.
flat earthers. Team, start explaining gravity to me.
Well, gravity is the.
Are you
attractive-
assuming that
is
gravity
the
is real? Shut up! No.
phenomenon-
Are you assuming that gravity is real?
Well,
Fucking burden of the proof's on you.
Hold on. Okay, burden of proof's on me. Here's
What?
gravity right here.
Are you? No, that's just density
gravity.
and buoyancy. Shut up! It's just density and buoyancy. You're fucking an idiot if you think that's just gravity.
Okay. Well, then why is my pen not sticking to the side?
Yeah, but NASA lies, and
This
they've
is more
always
dense than
fucking.
the air.
NASA are just stealing your money. So why don't you shut up?
Yeah, see, that's how we what we have to deal with, guys.
Yeah.
And that's a polite conversation. I don't even that wasn't even fucked up the way he was doing.
really
We were working with each other. That's pretty polite.
Then we've got Irish Demon for $2.99 Australian says, "What up, dickweeds? Flat Earth Aussie Jesus' breath is supernatural." Flat Earth Aussie Jesus.
Hey, can you put me on
just a
full
dick.
screen for 1 second?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
I want to
mean
hurt everyone's
you completely
eyes.
on.
That's fine.
Because somebody asked for a request. This is for Fatal Gravity. He says, "Indulge me for a second." Curse you, He-Man! Curse you!
I was
Yeah,
taken
fuck
back.
off.
I was
That's
taken
for
back
you,
to my
Fatal Gravity.
my Saturday morning cartoons there.
Right?
Tommy Gronville for number 20 Nokia says, "How is it to debate someone who's actually prepared?" Confusing. I can't.
Concept.
Yeah, it blew me away. I couldn't argue with a lot of his points because he actually came with points to argue. Well, no, Rampant, seriously, well done.
Right.
And thank you for
Thank you very
coming
much.
for an interesting conversation. It's been different tonight, and I've appreciated it. So thank you for coming along. Kevin Fraser for $10 says, "There is always an incredible story, but where is the proof? Give him the science, FTFE." Oh, I've tried to put as much science in there as I can tonight.
Yes, he did it well. I think he did it very well with the miracle claims, because there's a lack of proof in many key aspects of those stories.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Supernatural, by definition, is supernatural and not really explainable by science. So it's very hard to give the science to explain a supernatural phenomenon. We just have to figure out what actually is causing that supernatural phenomenon. And then we got another $5 from Kevin Pfizer says, "It's always nice to see Team's camera on." I think that was sarcasm. Then we got
Wait,
yeah.
Tim, you're really skinny. Do you do exercise? Just genetic?
Yes, I do. Thank you for asking.
No.
I appreciate it.
He's not
Mental
actually that skinny.
exercises all days.
The thing is, Rampant, he actually only exists in 2 dimensions.
Yes.
He goes sideways. And
No,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm not. I eat a lot, guys. Like yesterday for lunch, me and my son went and grabbed 12 tacos. I ate 4 tacos and let's see, I had 3 taco pizzas yesterday. I had two more tacos late at night. I mean, I will document all the food I eat. I will document it for the next week, and we'll have a food I eat stream. And you guys can tell me where I'm going wrong. Because I also work out. You see this area right here behind me? This is my little workout area. I do get some push-ups in. I don't do a lot of sit-ups because of my back, but I get my abs get worked out in, other ways. But yeah, no, I do. I actually do eat a lot, though. I just don't know. My metabolism's super, super high, so I just
Yes,
burn a lot of
that's my-
calories from the shit I eat.
I'm not jealous.
That's fine.
And then we got Joao Martins for €99 with no 99 cents. Sorry, with no message. Thank you very much. J.L. Warren from $9.99 says, "Accepting anything without evidence is not epistemologically sound. When you draw conclusions from unsound premises, you can be taken advantage of by charlatans and conmen." Yes, I think J.L. Warren was actually interested in having a conversation with you, Rampant. Maybe we can get him on to have a chat with you sometime.
Who? Excuse me, who?
J.L. Warren, or J.L. Truth.
Oh yes, okay. I want to say something about
Yes.
that believing without evidence. I will tell that person, if he's interested in epistemology and philosophy, he can look up the Munchausen trilemma or the Agrippa trilemma. It's about how it's impossible to prove every single claim one has. So
Okay.
if he's interested in that, he can look it.
Yeah, I think he'd definitely be interested in having a chat with you as well. So we can arrange that definitely. And then Jail
Yes,
warrant for another
sure.
I do want to
$9.99.
point out.
Yep, sorry, go on, team.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you first.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Commander Darklight said not to forget to mention that I did eat a package of spicy pickle chunks from the 7-Eleven gas station last night, and they were amazing. Yeah, for being gas station pickles, and I'm not meaning gas station like you buy them at the gas station. No, it was a 7-Eleven product. It was a gas station pickle, and it was I guess it was a vegetable tube that was already chopped up for me. It was spicy and it was great. I had that as well late night.
Nice.
I eat a lot.
Can I?
I just ate Chinese
Can
food
I
while I
ask
was
you-
sitting here.
Yes, Rampant,
ahead.
what is it, dude?
Can I ask you a favor at the end of the show?
Yeah.
I have some questions about the Earth, so if you could answer them.
Yeah,
No.
absolutely.
I have some questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fuck yeah.
You can ask us on stream if you like. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I
Let
ask
me
him now or later?
Let me get through some super chats, and then then you
Okay.
can ask them. Definitely, we'll answer whatever we can. Jail Warren for $9.99 says, if your feelings can lead you to incorrect conclusions and people can be led to put faith into the wrong thing, how can you justify your faith when you have no evidence that you are correct? And then for $4.99 he says, memory adjusts as the brain attempts to compensate. It will literally create memories based on recent memories to fill gaps. Yeah, the brain is fucking confusing. PhD Tony for $5 Australian. Shout out to PhD Tony, my spirit animal. Says, I fainted once during a medical procedure and felt I was in a warm, brightly lit garden with someone who loved me. Should I believe that was real? If you believe someone loved you, Tony, probably not. I'm not kidding.
Yeah. That's a goddamn lie.
That's impossible. That's impossible.
Preposterous. No, we love you, Tony. And we got Commander Darklight for yeah, for $22.99 Australian says, if only everyone was as well prepared and willing to accept that evidence isn't 100% verifiable. What a great discussion. I agree. I've really enjoyed tonight. Kevin Fraser for $5 says, if ghosts are real, then why doesn't my dead priest dad tell me to stop watching FTFE so I can go to heaven? The only way you can go into heaven is by sharing my stuff on social media. It was just written.
Guys, you should leave this place. This is a satanic cult. Okay.
Yeah.
Run.
Shush about the satanic cults. That's top secret, by the way. Gently's channel for £5 says, Supernatural wears his pants on the outside. Figured the super chat button needed some love. Thank you, Gently. Do appreciate it. Godless Scummer for £5 says, Flerfs, take note. This is how an adult conversation works. It's amazing. Bjorn Kamitz for 50 secs says, FTFE, Team Skeptic and Rampant have the possibly best day given to all who listen. Thank you, Bjorn. Very much appreciated. You have a great day as well. God the Scummer for £5 says, I think there's intelligent life out there because we have Flerfs. I think there's intelligent life out there, but because we have Flerfs, they're not willing to communicate with us. Yeah. Flat Earthers are the reason aliens won't talk to us. Daniel DNM for 20 Nokia says, I ain't afraid of no ghost. Now I've got the Ghostbusters theme tune in my head, thanks. Small Time Art for $10 says, I suggest looking into the data presented by Peter Venkman in the 1985 documentary Ghostbusters and reproduced successfully in 1986. 2016 efforts were an insignificant statistical anomaly.
Yeah, right.
By the way,
I love
have-
that.
I
Hey,
have-
that's a great.
That's the brilliant super
That's
chat.
a
well
great
done.
comment. Yes.
Have you ever heard the Globe Busters song?
No, oh god, I hate it when
No.
Flat Earthers do music. It's so cringe.
I actually like that song. I have it in my phone.
Globe Bastards?
Globebusters.
I'll have to listen to that one.
Go search it. It's really
Oh,
good,
Globe
you know.
Bastards. I thought you
Yeah.
said Globe Bastards.
Bastards.
I was like, hell yeah, call me a Globe Bastard.
We should be called the
That's
Globe
awesome.
Bastards. I like that.
The Globe Busters.
Makeba Malafika for $5 Australian says, I'm really enjoying this. Real debate with actual opinions and documented evidence. And Senpai Team. Awesome show. You got a fan there, team. Chrismer and Dave for $2 says,
Oh, yeah, my boy.
sending some more money for your breast pumps. Thank you. The size of these, the breast pumps are extremely expensive.
Triple D's.
Made in CDA for $10 says, I want to join the Academy team. The Team
Yeah,
Skeptic
you'll have to
Drawing
contact
Academy.
Ilya Moon.
Yeah.
You have to contact Ilya Moon.
I think Elia Moon had stepped out of the stream when I played the ad, so yeah, we did play your ad, Elia Moon, and everyone loved it. Rangerman944 for $5 says the dinger alone is worth the Team Skeptic drawing course.
Yes.
Draco Fire for $2 says, when's the new emojis coming out, Craig? I've got 8 out of the 10 ready. I'm going to add all of them tomorrow. Mr. Robot for 100 MKDs says, hiding legs proof. What?
I actually saw that video when he put that super chat. It's from a modern guy and they are like putting his leg, like hiding it. You know.
Right?
You
Yeah.
see
No.
it's like 1 minute long.
I think I know the one you mean. Binding the legs to make it look like the one's been cut off. Christopher Hogan for $2 Australian. Yeah, for $2 Australian says, looking forward to watching this later. Well, hi Christopher, when you're watching this later. Elia Moon for $5 says, FTFE, please pay the ad I sent for Team Skeptic. Yeah, we did, and it was amazing. Thank you, Elia. And Rampant for 1,000 claps says, gee, this guy surely beat these morons. Yeah,
I agree with you.
Yeah, well, first time I've lost a debate. I don't know what to say, really. Jessica G for $2 says, check out the weekly derp when the show is over. Yeah, please feel free to post a link to that.
Hey,
Jessica.
let me read the next one.
Yep.
Let me read the next one. Andres Elda for 56 says, Team has the only camera in the world that takes off 50 pounds when you turn it on. Damn straight.
I could do with that
Damn
camera
straight. Yo, you need the upgrade, the one that takes off 150.
Shut up, bitch. Elia Moon for $5. The last one says, lol, sorry I missed it, but Punchy did the entire advert and even played the guitar in the background. Punchy, that was amazing. Well done.
Ilya,
really well
you
done.
and Punchy did an amazing job on that. I really, really enjoyed it. That's on, and I don't say this about most people's videos, but that's on Flat Derp's level.
Yeah. Flat Derp is amazing. Everyone, I really appreciate all the super chats. It means the world. It really, really does. It allows me to keep doing what I'm doing. So thank you so much for that. If you're not able to super chat, the best way to help the channel is to share my stuff on social media. It really, really does help the channel. And I'd love for this debate to be shared as an example of how an actual conversation works. Now, before we get out of here, Rampant, you have some questions about the Earth.
Yes, I have 3 questions.
Okay.
So the first one is about. Okay, so the Michelson-Morrison experiment.
Yeah.
Okay, the two rays get at the same time to the detector, right?
Yeah.
Like the two. Okay.
What?
But why?
Sorry, go on.
Yes. Okay, but why doesn't that happen in the Sagnac effect? If it's like they are really similar, I don't understand why.
Well, the
the
Morley interferometers are they're like one way, whereas the Sagnac effect they measure it on like a circuit. So the mechanics behind how they're working is different. The Morley experiment was set up to see if light would be slowed in a certain direction when facing into or perpendicular to the hypothesized ether wind. Whereas the Sagnac effect is more about measuring the speed of light over a certain distance. Is that right, team?
So one is static and the other one is moving. That's
yeah.
I mean, from the Earth reference frame, right?
Yeah, I mean, you don't move the Morley experiment when it's in operation.
Sorry, I had my mic on mute. Yeah, so the Sagnac experiment had a rotating reference frame. So in the Michelson-Morley, it was a rotatable table, right?
Yeah.
But they left it in one orientation because they wanted to measure the speed of light going relative with one direction. Like the ether could be coming in any direction. As long as you keep this in this direction, then you're going to be either moving with it or against it or at an angle to it or what the case. When you're taking the Sagnac experiment and you're rotating it, what you're doing is you're actually changing which part is moving away and which part is moving closer. You know what I'm saying? Like if we're traveling in this direction, when the Sagnac experiment starts, you have, let's say, a triangle that the light goes. It's in this orientation, but it's also rotating. So at a certain point, one of the paths will be shortened as it rotates, but another path will be extended as it rotates. This is the idea of special relativity. This is why Einstein was saying there's no experiment you can do to determine whether you're actually falling down in a gravitational well, like, or you're free falling in space, and during free fall, you're going to get the equivalence principle, basically. It also applies to, like, special relativity. You can't tell if you're moving in this direction because you'll get a length contraction in that direction. So even though you shoot light in that direction and you should get it back faster, you're not going to, because that length has also been contracted. So it still appears as if the light's traveling on a stationary plate,
But
like on the table, for instance. Go ahead.
shouldn't that, like, if you take the speed of light from one of the legs and take the speed of light of the other leg, shouldn't you see different speed of lights? Because in one part of the stagnant
Okay,
effect,
let me
one takes more
exp-
time
yeah,
and more
let me.
distance.
Okay, so yes and no, but they're different for different. The reasoning behind it is different. Okay, so when you're taking the Sagnac versus the Michelson-Morley, so we're pulling out the nifty art studio right here. Give me a second. I'm gonna just draw this out. Okay, here we are right here. Forgive the amazing art. You guys are going to get a free lesson today. So in the Michelson-Morley experiment, you had like this, okay? And let's say that this is the direction that we're traveling through space, all right? So in this direction, length gets contracted, all right? So to an outside observer, so let's say someone that's sitting over here, length is contracted, all right? So to an outside observer, they should see the light. Let's say it gets contracted to this length right here. They should see the light come here, reflect, and bounce off here faster than if it was stationary. It would go here, bounce off, and come back, right? But also, since it's contracted only because it's moving as well.
Okay.
So
okay, I got it.
when
I
you
got
shoot the light at this, the time it takes for the light to get here, this has already moved to this area. And then in return, it would appear that it needs a shorter time as well, but again, the length contraction always works out so that you and the observer can both agree.
I'm going to
So
start the
it's
bidding
on the time
at
that it
500 skeptic dollars.
So time contracts and space contracts, and at the end, it's all add up to the speed of light. That's the point.
Yes.
Like at the end,
Now, okay.
it's always
Now
hit
let's
because either the
let's.
okay, continue.
I'm going to do this now. I'm going to draw this to give you an example of why the Sagnac experiment, it wouldn't really make a difference in the Sagnac experiment. And I might be getting minor details wrong trying to explain this properly, but so if we're traveling in this direction, length is only contracted in that direction. So length is not contracted along this direction right here. As this rotates, the length contraction that this distance right here will experience will change. It'll start out with 0 contraction, but by the end it has a vertical component to it in this direction. So this component of the length, to describe this, will become contracted. Okay? So it does, but also when it then rotates around this direction, it also is in the opposite direction of length contraction. So you actually get a length expansion. So it works itself out to where it's even.
Speed of light. Yes, I see.
Right. It's from the surface of the Earth there, and how it works for special relativity and general relativity. So we're left with two options. So here's our two options: either the Earth is not moving and no length contraction is happening, or the Earth is moving and there is length contraction. All right. So we do a third experiment, which would be your experiment, let's say GPS. And GPS will have one reading that will have if there's no length contraction, no time dilation, then GPS satellites won't need any, we won't need to apply any of the mathematical equations to get it to work.
That's why you use the Lorentz
corrections,
factor,
exactly.
Right? You use the Lorentz
like
factor.
A Lorentz transformation?
To,
yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Yes.
Like
synchronize the two clocks. Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
that was one
Lorentz
question.
Factor. Gamma.
I have another one which.
Did I answer it right?
Number.
Did I answer it okay for you?
I understand now. I see that the trick is in the contraction on both space and time. So even
Yes.
if you can see from outside like a discrepancy, from the other reference frame, like from the actual machine, there is no discrepancy. So it's really odd, but it makes some sense, you know. I don't know if I got it right.
No,
You know, because the way I see it, there's the person seeing from outside see a time contraction and a length contraction, but the person that is, if there was a person in the machine, the person in the machine sees the other person from outside having a time and a length contraction, so they are both mutually seeing
Yeah,
contraction.
that's right.
But from their
Right,
perspective, they are
that's
just
correct.
normal. Okay, I see.
Right.
The other
Right.
question
So
I had,
a second will always measure as a second to you. So let's say you have
yes.
an atomic clock with you, okay? And you take this
Mhm.
atomic clock at any speed you travel, that atomic clock will always measure 1 second per second for you. But for an
But if I
outside
see someone
observer,
from
the outside
outside, yes,
observer
right.
would see, yeah, they will have, if you have two clocks, one of them with an outside observer and he's watching you, your clock will change, will be ticking faster or slower relative to his clock, but his clock will be ticking relatively faster or slower to your clock.
But you, both of you see yourself normal. Yes, I see.
yeah,
It's
because for
really
Yes,
you
yes, as
the
both of you
strange.
see yourself
for
normal.
you the speed of light is always the speed of light.
Yes. I
Right.
have another question concerning that. It has to do with
Okay.
quantum tunneling. Okay, so isn't that like
Okay.
instantaneous? Like if an electron tunnels into another point, isn't that like there's instantaneous, right? Isn't that faster than light?
Yes. Okay. So, no. Okay. So, that's a little bit harder to explain, but I can do it. Give me 1 second. Get a new
More
thing.
math,
Okay.
more pictures, guys.
So,
I'm going to start the bidding before he's
more
even
pictures,
started
right?
drawing. 500
So,
Team Skeptic dollars.
what you have coming in that describes a particle is a wave function, right?
Okay.
There's a wave function that comes in. Now, let's say this describes a particle. So, it's not saying that the particle is going to go from here to there. It's to say that at this moment in time, this is the amplitude of the probability. This is like the probability of where you'll
Okay.
find that particle in one moment of time. Now, if you have a barrier, let's say a barrier that's here, okay, and you have
Okay.
a particle that comes in, normally you have a greater chance of the particle being reflected away, right? But there's also a
Okay.
very minimal chance that the particle will actually show up on the other side of the barrier. It's not a matter of instantaneous in time or anything like that. This is
So it's
actually one
it's
moment
not
in time
moving.
that describes the probability of its. Well, okay, at the next moment, it might be, let's say this is the moment at which the particle, we would predict that the particle hits here. This would be when the amplitude is actually the greatest. So let's say we have a moment here. Well, under normal circumstances, on almost all circumstances, you're going to have a reflection back, right? And that reflection back, the next moment in time will be described by a new wave function. But should the particle come over here, then that next wave function will not be on the left side of the barrier. It will be on the right side of the barrier. The actual particle will continue on. So it's not that it's traveling faster than light. It's just simply a probability of position. You can't
Okay.
know too
So
much
the
about where a particle
okay.
is. So you can never even say,
It's,
like,
it,
even the speed of light is simply a mathematical construct. It's something you can't ever truly verify because there's always going to be some uncertainty with it. Now, yeah, we're talking about, micrometers and shit. We're not talking about this
okay.
huge
So
amount of
so
discrepancy, but
the particle is not actually moving. What is like changing is the probability.
yes, the
That
probability of the
that's
position
okay.
of the particle is what
It's really
changes with
strange
over
because
time.
one tends to think about things like concrete objects, like little marvels. But yes,
But
it's
okay,
really
what's
strange.
concrete about an object, though? I mean, I'm sure you've
Yeah,
heard that
yes,
most of the inside of a solid object is empty space. So
yes,
when we
exempt
talk
space.
about we're talking about the interaction really of light with other electromagnetic components of an atom, which is the electrons. So that's really what we're dealing with, and there's space between these electrons, which in that space there's fields. That's the other part of it, is there's fields that are included that allow for all this to happen as well.
Okay, I understand. It's a bit like you need to like think in a really different way from like normal life. But I can,
Yeah,
I can see the
relativity
logic behind it.
is very counterintuitive when you think a lot about it.
Yes, it really is. Yes.
Now, I watched a great
And
video
and
recently
PhD
by.
Tony, go ahead. I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
I watched a great video recently by the Action Labs, where he played a video game made by MIT that shows what would happen if the speed of light was slowed to almost walking speed. And it does a great job of explaining, length contractions and stuff, and why it would happen and what it would look like. In fact, I'm going to post a link to it because I think everybody should
Talking about the
download.
MIT,
Yeah.
the MIT General Relativity game.
Yeah.
I downloaded it, but I just lost it when I reformatted my computer yesterday.
Well, I've just posted the link.
But
to
hey,
it in
I
the
wanted to
chat.
say,
I'm going to
yeah,
be streaming it on during our 40K subscriber 40-hour stream. I'm going to play that.
one thing PhD Tony
I
said,
have
and it's a
a
really good thing. When you're talking quantum mechanics, you really need to understand most of quantum mechanics is really just a retelling of the uncertainty principle and Heisenberg, or not Heisenberg's, but Schrodinger's equation and the
Schrodinger
uncertainty
equation.
principle. This is, yeah, the uncertainty principle is really what tells you what it really talks about why quantum tunneling can happen, because there is some of the uncertainty about position may extend beyond the barrier. If it extends beyond the barrier, then you're going to have, at least at some point, you will have a subatomic particle that appears there out of probability alone. In fact, let me tell you, most of your touch screens out there work this way. If you have a touch screen in your phone, right? So there's a pretty much like, we'll say it's kind of like an electrical capacitance. In fact, hold on, let me show you. It's an electrical, we'll just say that for right now. You have the screen, all right, the outside screen, and you have an inside screen, and there's a distance right here, okay? And so this distance is really, 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 really small. So what happens is you have particles over here that tunnel over here, and they get through this gap, okay? Now, how your screen knows where it's being touched is because there's a certain percentage that's predicted as to how many particles will actually tunnel through to the other side. Anytime you touch your screen, you put a slight force on it, which we'll say that's down here. We'll say this is the area that you're actually touching your screen, right? And we'll say that there's a few particles up here that have tunneled through. Well, because you push this, because you put pressure on that, and you force these two plates closer together, you'll actually get more particles that tunnel through. And those particles,
okay, because the barrier is smaller, right? And that, like, the probability is higher.
Because
okay.
exactly, the probability increases. Therefore, you also get more of those electrons, and that's how a touch screen works.
That's yeah. I didn't knew there was quantum mechanics in a touchscreen, you know.
Oh yeah. Pretty much any modern
Hey,
mechanical object or any modern electrical object that you have is going to be going to have some kind of quantum mechanics principles involved.
I've got some super chats here. Christ Puncher for $2 says, "Brilliant! I'll bid $2 whole." And then Eliamoon for $2.01 says, "Outbidding Punchy." And then Summer Ash for $5 says, "My bid for the dinosaur art." So currently, Summer Ash is winning.
Okay. I have a last question.
Now, it says it's not pressure, it's electromagnetic field from Mal McKay. I'm not 100% sure. The way it was explained to me is that when you push any kind of, anytime you touch something, you're imparting a force on it. That force will cause the screen that mass to accelerate. So when it accelerates, it actually gets closer, reducing the barrier length, allowing more
because
particles
the
to touch across. That was just how it was
of
explained
your
to me.
finger, the electron of your finger, and the electron of the touch screen, like the magnetic forces.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a final question.
Yes.
This one is a bit more dumb.
And thank you.
But I never got
Thank
it right. Really, I don't understand it. So this is the Earth, right? This is the curve.
Yeah.
So you have a plane, and the plane is going, and I always hear that the pilot needs to be constantly like doing this, you know, to follow the curve. Is that true? Is that false?
No.
I don't know.
No. Right. So the simple way to think about it is that the atmosphere curves with the Earth, right? And once a plane is at cruising altitude, say it's at 50,000 feet cruising altitude, and it's got its engines at a certain thrust and its wings pointed in a certain direction, all the forces balance out with the pressure of the air at 50,000 feet. Now, if he leaves everything the same, then the plane will automatically follow the curve of the Earth because of the summation of all the forces. He's got the thrust set for the pressure of air at 50,000 feet. So as long as he doesn't change anything, he will always be in that band of air pressure which naturally follows the Earth. So the plane doesn't need to dip its nose down. And actually, planes tend to fly with the nose up a little bit and fly into the wind rather than pointing down to follow the curve. It will automatically follow the curve because that's what the atmosphere does.
Oh, okay. So the atmosphere, since the atmosphere is moving with the curve of the Earth,
Yeah.
and the plane is in the atmosphere, so it's like all is moving at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and because there's like a band of pressure at 50,000 feet at cruising altitude, as long as the airplane keeps the thrust the same and the wings at the same angle, it will stay in that band of 50,000 feet until it reduces thrust, and then it will fall down until it gets to the level that matches the thrust and everything. But no, a pilot doesn't need to tip his nose down because it uses the atmosphere, which naturally follows the curve of the Earth.
But they usually keep it like up. Then.
Yeah, they tend to actually point the nose up a little bit for aerodynamic purposes with the plane.
Yeah.
And that were all my questions. Thank you very
I
much.
believe that's called the angle of attack.
Yes, it absolutely is. You're right.
And that's legitimately why I only know this because after listening to fucking Nathan Oakley and everybody else use angle of attack, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? I eventually looked it up, and it's a fucking aerodynamic term.
Yeah.
But
Can
go ahead,
I
I
shamelessly promote my channel?
Yes, if you have a channel, please feel free to put it in the chat as well.
But it's only I only speak Spanish in that channel. So if anyone speaks Spanish and is interested in like politics or other topics like that, I do videos of that. The name of the channel, which is in Spanish, it's called Corrugado Aguado. I'm going to put the name of the channel in
In the chat.
the chat box. Yeah.
Feel free, absolutely,
shameless
guys.
plug.
If you'd like to see some more of Rampant, then go and subscribe to him. And I think we're going to set up.
It's only in Spanish, but yes.
That's cool, but I think we're definitely going to set up a chat with you and JL Warren, because I think that would be a very interesting conversation. Rampant, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on tonight. Thank you for, like I said before the show started, thank you for being such a supporter of the channel and of the community in general. It's a pleasure to finally meet you, and thank you for coming on and having this great conversation with me.
Thank you also.
No worries.
Goodbye.
Team, any final thoughts before we get out of here for tonight?
No, but you have a super chat that came in that I'd like to read.
Yes, feel free.
For $6.66. Like I said before, every time team draws, a puppy drowns. Hail Satan.
Hail Satan.
No, that's not true. Every time I draw, an angel gets its wings. That's what we're going to.
So just changing the narrative to fit whatever you want, team. Right, typical. And then we got one more super chat from Jessica G for $2. Says, need funny? Team Skeptic with an Etch-a-Sketch. You win.
By the way,
I do want everybody.
Warren?
Go ahead.
Who's who? Sorry.
Who is Jail Warren?
Jail Warren.
Yeah. How do you type that?
Jail Warren, make yourself known in the chat.
Yeah, at J dot. And it'll come up when you do that. And I also want everybody to know that when I try to give explanations, I really try to dumb it down so that anybody that's listening can understand. And I might miss the point on some things. There was some disagreements with me on how the touch screens work out there. And I'm not sure exactly because I'm only catching some of the disagreements that were being said. But yeah, I'm just repeating it how it was told to me. And I do appreciate everybody out there who does correct me, though, because when I get something wrong, I actually like to be corrected about it.
I missed one super chat from Bella Charge, actually. It says, for $2 New Zealand, Full Guy after party stream. I can't come to an after party tonight. I need to go to sleep because my I got to be up with my kids getting them ready for school in about 4 hours. So.
Well, I might do a Fall Guy after party. No, you know what? Not tonight. Not tonight. I have to get this video done tonight. I really need to focus on that. My computer finally got fixed, and I've had some issues. Fight. Let's just put it like that.
It's cool. You got it
I've
sorted.
had some issues.
And to close
I
off
hope
the
I
show,
have.
Christ Puncher for $5 says, "Love you guys, Team Skeptic and FTFE." No, we love you. The community is what makes our channels. We do this to keep you guys entertained, and I hope you've had fun tonight, and I hope you've enjoyed the conversation. Come back later this week for more debates, actually on both my channel and Team's channel, and I should have a new video out this week as well. Apart from that, I just want to say thank you again to Rampant for coming on. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you for Team hanging around and helping out with the debate. Subscribe to Team Skeptic if you're not already. And please share my stuff on all the social media. I'm so close to 40k. Remember, stupidity is not a right. Fight the flat earth. Fight the flat. 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 Fight the flat.